Welcome to Sally Fox Audiobook, Chapter 26 to 50, Endless Descendants. A gun? Zhuan pondered slightly. Frankly speaking, she was indeed tempted. Her shelter indeed needed more armed forces to ensure safety when she was away. Thank you for the information, this is useful to me. Does Misson have any plans? Zhuan smiled. Let me finish what I have on hand first. These people still need my protection for their operations. As the two were talking, Hao Jianwei walked over and interjected, Manager, the supplies have been collected. Let's head to the last location. Alright, Zhuan nodded. Goodbye then, Zhou Yao. My shelter is at the Yunjing residential area. If you can't make it out there, you can come find me. I welcome you at any time. Zhou Yao smiled slightly as a response. Zhou Yao looked toward the direction where Zhu En's convoy had left, until the dust and smoke settled into silence. A very interesting person, very powerful and very confident. She possessed armed force but did not bully the weak, and she was a woman. Perhaps, one day, working under her wouldn't be bad. Zhou Yao had left himself a way out. On the other side, Zhu En's convoy slowly stopped once again, halting in front of a hardware store that didn't look very large. There weren't many zombies here, they appeared sparse and scattered. Zhuan suddenly thought of a rather twisted way to use the crimson blood manipulation technique. Previously, whenever Zhuan used the crimson blood manipulation technique, she would always hack the zombies to pieces, draw out their blood, and then simply inject the blood into a zombie's brain to finish it off. Now, she had a new idea, to make the injected blood implode. This way, the zombie would produce new blood, and this blood could then be used to attack new zombies. Endless descendants. Since there were few zombies right now, it was the perfect time to test this technique. Zhuan violently hacked a zombie to pieces, controlled a larger drop of blood, injected it into the zombie's brain, and then caused the blood to explode immediately. Making the blood explode was a rather abstract term, but that was the only way Zhuan could describe it. The specific effect was that the blood would scatter in all directions. This poor zombie let out a muffled groan, its head already riddled with holes, looking like a sieve. This move was quite taxing on her spirit. Zhuan felt that if she wanted to achieve the effect of blowing up a zombie's head directly and sustaining the subsequent explosions, her current spirit was still insufficient. While pondering, Zhuan cleared out these zombies. Soon, everything was loaded up, and the group returned fully loaded. Zhuan did not stay at the shelter, instead, she unloaded the items from the vehicle and drove away immediately, heading straight for the police station. Time rewinds to 2 hours ago, in the villa area. The three of them, Lu Wenjin and his companions, sat in the same car, while the only two remaining bodyguards, Lu Chao and Zhao Bo, each took a car. They were in front and behind, flanking Lu Wenjin's car in the middle, each responsible for luring away zombies. Rest assured, there are so many zombies there that surely no one has touched it. The guns must still be there, Lu Wenjin said confidently while driving. Yu Yong also spoke up, it's a pity if these bodyguards really die. In Lu Wenjin's plan, the two bodyguards were supposed to drive with the car stereo on to attract zombies, but this stereo had already been tampered with by Lu Wenjin. Once it was turned on, it couldn't be stopped. They couldn't stop either. Once they stopped, the zombies would catch up to them immediately. They had to keep driving to attract the zombies. They still had walkie-talkies used for communication when they were bodyguards, which would probably only be used to share their despair by then. Yu Yong had originally intended to keep one, but Lu Wenjin said that since they had walkie-talkies, if they wanted to harm one, the other would also know. Furthermore, they were both big and strong, and he was afraid they wouldn't be able to control them later. In short, Lu Wenjin persuaded Yu Yong. Anyway, once they had guns later, catching some harmless weaklings or women would be enough. They were almost there. Lu Wenjin's car slowed down, while Lu Chao's car, which had been behind, sped up and quickly overtook Lu Wenjin. The stereos in both cars blared, playing noisy music as they sped off into the distance. Both cars quickly rushed into the area of the police station infested with zombies. A large number of dazed zombies were awakened by the two cars and began to chase them. Lu Chao and Zhao Bo's cars split up, heading in two different directions to lure and divert the zombies. Looking at the zombie horde behind him through the rearview mirror, Lu Chao couldn't help but click his tongue. This number is truly terrifying. A conservative estimate was that there were over 70 behind him. After 5 or 6 minutes, Lu Chao felt that he had successfully lured the zombies away from the police station, so he wanted to turn off the music. F***CK. It won't turn off. He immediately understood, he had been discarded like a tool once its purpose was served. Without hesitation, he immediately shouted into the walkie-talkie, "Zhao Bo, the music won't turn off. We've been set up." Huh? Zhao Bo's voice paused for a few seconds. Clearly, he had tried it too. Damn it, they want to kill us. What do we do now? They still had dozens of zombies chasing them behind. Even if they stepped on the gas to shake off the zombies, they wouldn't be safe during the time they had to get out of the car. Damn it, Lu Chao said, gritting his teeth. I should have taken them out from the beginning. Originally, after the apocalypse, the wealth gap had disappeared, and money had vanished. Though one may have bushels of jade, it is not worth a plate of millet. No matter how much money this group of rich second-generation brats gave them, it was useless now. They should have risen up to become the masters. Anyway, these three rich brats usually played around too much, and their bodies were already hollowed out. How could they possibly beat them? Damn it. I'll fight them to the death. They want to kill me. I won't let them have it easy either. Zhao Bo's head grew hot, and he abruptly turned onto another road. He was going to lure the zombies back. Lu Chao was shocked, but then pleased. The police station's guns would have at most 20 or 30 rounds of ammunition. One had to know that the use of police guns and every single bullet had to be registered. The quantity of bullets would simply not be high. If Zhao Bo lured 70 or 80 heads back, those rich brats would only be blocked in and killed by the zombie horde. They would all perish together. Thinking of this, Lu Chao felt increasingly exhilarated and slammed on the gas. He didn't care about the business between them, nor did he care how many of them would survive. Now, Lu Chao only wanted to go to a new place and start over. On the other side, after seeing that the two cars had lured away most of the zombies, Lu Wenjin slowly drove his car into the police station. The three of them got out of the car cautiously. They had basically no protective gear on their bodies, and their only weapons were crowbars. Their formation was not the all-vision 3-3 type, making it full of danger and crudeness. Du Guan saw a police officer's corpse on the ground, half-eaten and face down. Du Guan kicked the corpse over. He didn't see a holster. Not seeing what he wanted, Du Guan clicked his tongue softly. Meanwhile, Lu Wenjin on the side had already made a harvest early on, obtaining a police pistol from another corpse. Lu Wenjin checked it. The safety was already off. It must have been used while fighting zombies. Now, there were 2 rounds left in the gun. The outdoor search ended here. Next, the three of them had to go inside to search. Even if the zombies inside heard the music, because they were too stupid, they wouldn't find the door and come out on their own. So, it was now time for the three of them to face the zombies head-on. At this moment, Lu Wenjin heard a faint sound of music. The sound of music was getting closer and louder, and following it were the roars of numerous zombies. Not good. Lu Wenjin suddenly realized something and shouted loudly, "Hide inside. F***CKU, you all have to die." Seeing the three of them right inside the police station, Zhao Bo drove straight into them. However, Lu Wenjin's car was parked right at the entrance of the police station. The entrance was too narrow, and he crashed straight into it. The car windows shattered on the spot, and both cars rushed into the police station together. The zombies following behind him swarmed in as well. Zhao Bo, who had been knocked unconscious, was bitten directly by the zombies. Lu Wenjin and the other two had no choice but to enter the first floor, desperately opening the door in a panic. As soon as they opened the door, a zombie suddenly appeared right in front of the three of them. Ah. Chapter 27, The Taste of Lying. Ah. Du Guan, who was rushing in the front, wanted to turn around and run away. Yu Yong, behind him, shoved Du Guan directly into the zombies. What a joke, there are so many zombies behind us, we'll be eaten until not even our bones are left. I'm sorry, but you'd better die first. In Du Guan's terrified and stunned eyes, a zombie bit into his face. The remaining two ran toward the stairs for the time being. Because Yu Yong had pushed Du Guan, he was afraid that Lu Wenjin would do the same to him, so he lagged behind. The zombies behind quickly rushed through the door. Sorry. Lu Wenjin shouted loudly, and the next moment, he aimed the gun in his hand at Yu Yong. Damn it, no. Yu Yong realized what Lu Wenjin wanted to do and reached out toward Lu Wenjin abruptly. Accompanied by a gunshot, Yu Yong's torso was hit, and his body fell toward the stairs behind, knocking down several zombies, but even more zombies rushed up and began to gnaw on him. There was hatred and anger in his eyes, but he had no chance for his vivid expression to be seen by Lu Wenjin. Their group was filled with distrust and betrayal. Therefore, just a tiny starting factor could cause the whole thing to explode. Lu Wenjin used the time gained by Yu Yong being eaten to hurry into a room on the second floor that looked relatively sturdy. The moment he closed the door, a gun went off again. Lu Wenjin looked at the zombie that had been shot in the head by him on the ground, feeling like crying but having no tears. The last bullet had also been used up. Lu Wenjin searched around, but unfortunately, this was clearly an office, and the zombie corpses on the ground had already been checked. There were no service pistols at all. This operation hadn't gained anything, and it had even cost 2 people. He himself was also on the verge of danger. The window of this room where Lu Wenjin was happened to face the entrance of the police station, and he saw that his car had already been rammed by Xiao Bo. As for Xiao Bo's car, the front windshield had already shattered, and Xiao Bo had also been gnawed to death. There were about 60 zombies in front of the police station, and at least 20 in the police station. He was completely trapped here. Damn, that guy was just a dog I paid to raise, he didn't do his job properly for me, and the bastard even dared to bite me. Lu Wenjin felt resentful in his heart, but he didn't dare to curse out loud, fearing that the zombies would be attracted. Helpless, Lu Wenjin could only sit on a chair, thinking about waiting quietly, waiting for the number of zombies to decrease, and then seeing if he could get out. Although he himself knew that this idea was close to a fantasy. Time passed for more than an hour, and Zhuan drove to the police station. Zhuan's first feeling when she arrived here was that something had definitely happened here. There were more than 60 zombies wandering here, which was indeed a desperate number for an average person. However, for Zhuan, this number was just here to deliver evolution points. The zombies rushed over. It wasn't just the zombies that heard the commotion, but also Lu Wenjin, who had been waiting bitterly for a long time. A car is coming? Lu Wenjin poked his head out from the window. Could it be that I am really a lucky star, and I'm about to find a way out of a desperate situation? Then, he saw the scene of Zhuan harvesting the zombies and couldn't help but widen his eyes. Is this human? Lu Wenjin fell into deep self-doubt. They had to come in to get guns, engage in all kinds of schemes and betrayals, and feed their companions to the zombies. The other party, however, was as relaxed and easy as taking a stroll after a meal. As a second-generation rich kid, Lu Wenjin's demands had always been easily met. So he had never understood those who cried about being poor. In his view, hundreds of thousands were just pocket change, and he didn't understand the bitterness of those who had to bow to the constraints of life. Now he could roughly understand this feeling of imbalance. Just as Lu Wenjin was in a trance, all 60-plus zombies were easily and effortlessly taken down by Zhuan. Zhuan found a corpse wearing a police uniform and searched around, and sure enough, she found 2 service pistols. And the bullets were full. They must have mutated into zombies as soon as the apocalypse started, so the firearms never had a chance to be used. Lu Wenjin also noticed Zhuan's actions. What a coincidence, is she also here to get guns? He hesitated for a long time about whether to speak up, and finally made up his mind. Hey. Hello. Save me. Zhuan heard the call and looked toward Lu Wenjin. What an impolite way of addressing someone. Did your parents not teach you the etiquette of asking for help? Lu Wenjin was stunned. This was indeed not taught. Before, whenever he had something to do, he solved it directly with money. Anyway, no matter how bad his attitude was, throwing more money could always buy a smiling face. But now, being under someone else's roof, he had to bow his head. I'm sorry, please help me, I'm trapped by zombies. Lu Wenjin hardened his heart, he would just consider biding his time. Alright then, wait a moment. Zhuan checked the zombie corpses around again to make sure there were no regrets. She went to look at the scene where the two cars collided. These two cars were luxury cars she couldn't have imagined before, even getting a wheel from them would be enough for her to be financially free for the rest of her life. But now, this kind of car was useless. It couldn't defend against zombies, its transport capacity was weak, and other than being handsome, it was useless. Clearly, it was this person who had already been gnawed to death who drove the car and rammed the car that was originally parked here. What happened here to make a person willing to use their own life to do this? Zhuan walked into the police station and smashed all the zombies in the room with a few strikes of her blade. At the entrance of the corridor, Zhuan squatted down in front of Yu Yong's broken corpse. There is a gunshot wound on the chest, but it's not fatal. The cause of death was being bitten to death by zombies. These people definitely had problems. Zhuan continued to smash the zombies in the corridor and approached the room where Lu Wenjin was. Zhuan knocked politely. I'm here, open the door. So fast? Lu Wenjin's heart trembled. Zhuan entered the room and saw the exhausted-looking Lu Wenjin. What happened here? Zhuan asked straight to the point. Lu Wenjin's brain spun at a speed he had never experienced in his life. My companions and I planned to come here to get guns for self-defense, but we were harmed by two people we had beef with. One of my companions died, I used a gun to kill one, and then I was forced into here. Lu Wenjin rattled off a bunch of words, directly shifting the blame onto the dead. Anyway, dead people couldn't talk, and he was innocent. Gun? Let me see? Lu Wenjin shook his head, it's out of bullets. Alright then. The two fell silent. After a long time, Lu Wenjin spoke, I don't know, can you help me? Do what? I want to go home. Lu Wenjin said tentatively, even he knew that his request was a bit excessive. To his surprise, Zhuan nodded, no problem, but you have to wait a moment, I need to finish collecting all the guns. For the first time in his life, Lu Wenjin felt like crying. This woman who suddenly appeared was really too kind and too easy to trick. Anyway, since she was so easy to trick, an evil thought suddenly rose in Lu Wenjin's heart. How could Zhuan not know that the person in front of her had problems? But as long as he didn't make a move against her or her people, Zhuan couldn't be bothered to kill him. Kill him? Killing him wouldn't give her evolution points. My name is Lu Wenjin, I don't know how to address you. Lu Wenjin reported his name first. Zhuan said concisely. Then she walked out of the room. She wanted to check every room to see if there were any missed firearms. After all, bullets were used up one by one, and she had no other channels to get bullets right now. Lu Wenjin followed Zhuan like a little puppy. Facing other doors, Zhuan was not so kind-hearted. If she encountered a locked door, she would kick it open directly, and then kill the zombies simply and brutally, which made Lu Wenjin's eyelids twitch. Soon, the search ended, and Zhuan found another gun. Zhuan called out to Lu Wenjin, tell me, where is your home? I'll drive you there. Chapter 28, The Wrong Choice. Speak up, where is your home? I'll drive you there. Lu Wenjin gave his address. As expected, it was a villa area. Zhuan's eyes flickered, and the corners of her mouth curled into a faint, elusive smile. Zhuan started the car, and it sped along the deserted roads. Along the way, Lu Wenjin wanted to make some boring small talk. To be honest, Lu Wenjin's flirting techniques were extremely low-level. Zhuan couldn't be bothered to pay him any mind, and he realized he was just making a fool of himself, so he simply stopped talking. After about 20 minutes, the car stopped in front of a spacious and imposing villa. "It's truly impressive," Zhuan couldn't help but exclaim. Lu Wenjin smiled slightly. This seemed to be one of the few things he could be proud of now. "Would you like to come in and sit for a while?" Zhuan nodded. "I'd like to see what tricks you can pull next," she thought. The opportunity to decide his own life, whether to live or die, was already laid out before Lu Wenjin. However, he was unaware of it. The two entered the villa, and Zhuan sat on the massive sofa. She had to admit, it was indeed comfortable. Was this what the wealthy enjoyed? Lu Wenjin said, "I'll go to my room to change clothes first." "Please wait a moment, Missin." With that, he went upstairs. Zhuan agreed verbally, but she first scanned Lu Wenjin with her spirit. When Lu Wenjin came back down, he had changed into new clothes that looked expensive. Zhuan scanned him again and, sure enough, discovered a small packet of powdery substance in his pocket. "One moment, I'll prepare a drink for Missin." Zhuan understood in her heart, but she just nodded. "Go ahead." After saying that, she closed her eyes to rest. Lu Wenjin walked into the kitchen, took out a wine glass, opened a bottle of red wine, preloaded the prepared sleeping drug, and made a mark on the drugged glass that only he could understand. What he was thinking about now was abandoning this house, drugging Zhuan, taking her gun, and running far away. He knew he couldn't beat Zhuan, so he had to resort to petty tricks like drugging her. Fortunately, he usually lived a wild life, so sleeping drugs were always kept in the villa. This must be what they call luck only favoring the prepared. Lu Wenjin placed the drugged glass of wine in front of Zhuan. "Missin, please drink. This is fine wine." Zhuan opened her eyes and said some inexplicable words. "I was just conceiving a story." "What kind of story?" Lu Wenjin asked, confused. "A young man stands at a fork in the road. On one side of the road is death, and on the other side is life. Guess which path the young man chooses?" Lu Wenjin pretended to laugh heartily. "That's simple. Anyone with a brain would choose life." Zhuan glanced at him lightly. "But you have no brain." Lu Wenjin was instantly a bit angry. "Who are you calling brainless?" The next moment, a deep sense of fear engulfed him. How is this possible? Did she find out? Am I going to die? Zhuan flicked her right index finger upward, and the red wine in the glass slowly floated up before Lu Wenjin's incredulous eyes. It shot directly at the wall behind Lu Wenjin. The exquisite wall became riddled with holes, as if it had been raked by an AK. "Your lies are full of holes. In screenwriting terms, it's called third-rate. The most obvious one is the people who drove in. Their car was also a luxury car," Zhuan rambled on. "And since you can live here, obviously, this car has something to do with you. Someone once told me they heard people deliberately attracting zombies to the police station, so I guess that person must be your accomplice." But he was dissatisfied. No, just dissatisfaction shouldn't lead to this point. You must have pushed him into a dead end, which made him want to perish together with you all. Lu Wenjin looked at Zhuan, his eyes growing increasingly desperate. Then you fled to the second floor. To buy time, you killed at least one companion with a gun. It was obviously effective, and because of that, you held out until I arrived and sat here. But you made a mistake. You tried to harm me. As Zhuan finished her words, there was a heavy thud of a kowtow. Lu Wenjin fell to his knees, his head hitting the floor. I was wrong, please spare me. I won't dare to do it again. This was the first time Lu Wenjin had knelt since he was born. He had never imagined he would one day kneel, and to a woman at that. But under the great terror on the edge of life and death, his psychological defenses were broken. Zhuan was silent for a long while, then said leisurely, Do I look like a very naive person to you? Lu Wenjin looked up and saw Zhuan gently point, and a drop of wine floated up. No. Ah. No. Lu Wenjin tried to stand up, but fell backward in a sorry state. Don't kill me. My father is. The next moment, the drop of wine struck into his brain. Lu Wenjin's body slowly slumped to the ground. Looking at Lu Wenjin's body sprawled on the floor, Zhuan sighed slowly. To be honest, she really didn't like killing people. Killing people didn't give any evolution point, and they were free labor. However, Zhuan looked at the luxurious decor around her. Getting some good things to take back for Song Xiaoqian and Hao Jianwei to taste would make the trip worthwhile. About 20 minutes later, Zhuan had packed up the things, found something to eat to fill her stomach, and called Hao Jianwei. The call was answered quickly. Hello, Managerin? The sound of welding could be heard in the background. It seemed Hao Jianwei was truly standing on the front line of labor. Yeah, Hao Jianwei, I encountered some things at noon, so I won't be coming back. I'll continue killing zombies outside. You guys keep busy. Alright, Managerin. Having said that concisely, she hung up the phone. Zhuan started the car again and began her afternoon zombie clearing operation. When the time reached 5 in the afternoon, Zhuan, feeling it was time to get off work, left on time and drove to the front of the shelter. Unexpectedly, within just a few hours, the modification of the shelter's gate had already shown some results. Behind the gate, Feng Bei was wearing a mask and welding, with sparks from the welding flying everywhere. Managerin, you're back. Hao Jianwei patted Feng Bei's shoulder, and the latter stopped his work and opened the gate. As Zhuan drove her car into the residential area, she said, I killed a lot of zombies today, too many to count. Hao Jianwei laughed, Managerin is truly hardworking. Zhuan nodded, not bothering to be modest. After all, excessive modesty is arrogance. I didn't expect your enthusiasm for work to be so great, even yesterday while cleaning up the zombie corpses. Hao Jianwei smiled, Managerin, you don't understand. I'm with the people in our residential area every day, and they are all very grateful to you, Managerin. Not only did you clear the zombies in the residential area, but you were also willing to give everyone food, following the rules from before the apocalypse. Like other survivor teams, people die when they go out to find things, and they have to be suspicious of each other to survive. Unlike the people in our residential area, who are so happy. Zhuan smiled with gratification, it seems I'm still a little useful. The cohesion among the people in the residential area was very strong. They also wanted to maintain this paradise. The shelter, which was originally established because Zhuan wanted to avoid trouble, somehow sparked a sense of responsibility and satisfaction in Zhuan's heart. Let's not talk about this for now, Zhuan said, handing the things from the passenger seat to Hao Jianwei. This is? Hao Jianwei took the firearms, becoming increasingly shocked. Guns? For real? Zhuan nodded, when I told you I was busy at noon, it was because I was busy with this at the police station. You arm everyone with these 3 guns. Just teach people how to take off the safety and how to shoot. The guns are only for deterrence. Don't waste bullets if there's no need, understand? How could Hao Jianwei not understand Zhuan's thoughts? Zhuan was afraid that the residential area would be taken advantage of while she wasn't there. Therefore, not only had Song Xiaoqian been guarding the residential area before, but now Zhuan had even brought back 3 guns. I understand, Hao Jianwei said with eyes as firm as if he were joining the party. I guarantee to protect the safety of the residential area. At night, Zhuan added the points from killing zombies during the day. She had killed a lot of zombies today. Constitution, 500, limit, spirit, 500, limit, agility, 250, alienation, unlocked technique, crimson blood manipulation technique, 60/100, proficient, techniques to be unlocked, none evolution point, 8. After adding the points, Zhuan fell into a deep sleep. Tomorrow would be a new day. Chapter 29, Could it be that you have no one point of fault? A new day at the university activity complex, and the sky was just beginning to brighten. Ouyang Sushua woke up early on the sofa without waking anyone else. She just sat quietly on the sofa, seemingly lost in thought about many things. She thought of her boyfriend, imagining how he had been bitten by a zombie and then killed by Tang Yun. Although she was currently using the supplies that Qin Yuan had led the team to find, could it be that Qin Yuan had no one point of fault at all? It would be better if everyone just died. Yes, that was it. This was what Ouyang Sushiwe was thinking now. She stood up and scanned her surroundings. No one had woken up yet. This was the activity complex, not a dormitory, so the surviving students were sleeping on sofas or on the floor with things spread out. Fortunately, it was summer. If it were winter, she wouldn't know what to do. Ouyang Sushiwe stepped over a student on the floor and walked towards the door. She walked slowly to the stairs, moved the heavy objects at the doorway, and opened the door. Back then, Zhuan had incidentally cleared most of the zombies in the activity complex, so there were no zombies here at all now. Ouyang Sushiwe prepared to go elsewhere to lure zombies over. That way, everyone would die. Ouyang Sushiwe quickly found a car. The keys were still inside, and there was half a tank of gas left. She tried it out. Although she had only gotten her driver's license right after the college entrance exam, it didn't affect her ability to drive. Good, Ouyang Sushiwe started the car. At this moment, the sleeping Qin Yuan was awakened by the sound of the car starting. Qin Yuan was a light sleeper, and the slightest disturbance could easily wake him. What's going on? Qin Yuan's brain was a bit foggy. The sound of a car. Qin Yuan shook Tang Yun awake. Get up, get up. I have a premonition that something is about to happen. Then, the two of them went outside to the railing. Qin Yuan noticed with his sharp eyes that one vehicle was missing and blurted out, "Oh no." He immediately ran to the stairwell and found that the heavy objects had indeed been moved, and the door had been opened. He immediately turned to Tang Yun and said, "Quick, wake everyone up. Check if any supplies are missing. Take roll call. See who isn't here, someone ran away." Tang Yun felt as if he were facing a formidable enemy and immediately ran into each room to wake everyone up. Ouyang Sushiwe is missing, and nothing is missing. This is bad. Cold sweat streamed down Qin Yuan's face. He instantly understood Ouyang Sushiwe's intentions and cursed her ancestors for 18 generations. We are in big trouble. Qin Yuan shouted loudly, "Those who can use weapons, pick them up. Those who can't, hurry and use things to block the door. Sushiwe is trying to sabotage us, we are in big trouble. Hurry, hurry, hurry." The people who had just been awakened and were still feeling gloomy immediately snapped to attention and began to take action. Tang Yu grabbed Tang Yun's arm and asked, "What's wrong? Brother, what happened?" Tang Yun shook his head. Ouyang Sushiwe might have gone to lure zombies over to trap us. Damn it. Upon hearing Tang Yun's words, Feng Wenzhou understood and sighed. As expected, generally speaking, this kind of person really shouldn't be kept, she's a menace. Hindsight is 20/20. So what can we do now? Tang Yun covered his forehead. Feng Wenzhou held up a finger, looking mysterious, and said leisurely, "I have a plan that can solve our current worry." Spit it out. Qin Yuan flicked him on the forehead. Ouch. Feng Wenzhou winced in pain. We just need to call for help. Just call Miss over. That was true. Qin Yuan looked at Tang Yun. Among everyone present, only Tang Yun had Zhu En's contact information. Tang Yun looked at the hopeful gazes of the three, understanding that this was a life-or-death moment and he could not refuse. He picked up his phone and sent a message to Zhuan. "Missin, we are in danger here. Although I am very embarrassed, it is difficult for us to solve this with our own strength. We sincerely hope to receive your help. Thank you very much." Tang Yun thought about it and tried to make a call, but the call didn't connect at all and was inexplicably disconnected. Tang Yun wanted to send another message, but he could only watch the sent message spin and spin, eventually turning into a red exclamation mark. No internet? Tang Yun was shocked. What's going on? Qin Yuan also leaned over to look at Tang Yun's phone screen. He checked his own phone, and sure enough, his phone also had no network. He didn't expect the network to crash at exactly this moment. Did the message go through? Qin Yuan asked. Tang Yin nodded. The first text message went through, but the call didn't connect, and I can't send any follow-up messages. He could only hope that Juan would see it as soon as possible. If it was a few hours late, they might be done for. On the other side, Ouyang Sushihua slowly drove towards densely populated areas like the dormitories, and gradually, dozens of zombies gathered behind her. Watching the zombies in relentless pursuit behind her, Ouyang Sushihua's palms slowly began to sweat. When using a car to lure zombies, drivers always have the illusion that they can easily handle the zombies. But in reality, even the lowest-level zombies have a speed similar to a normal person running a 100-meter dash at full speed. These zombies were not enough. Ouyang Sushihua wanted to find a stronger and larger zombie, preferably one that could break down the first-floor door. Perhaps heaven was favoring her. Speak of the devil and he shall appear. A giant zombie appeared in front of Ouyang Sushihua. This zombie was about 2.2 to 2.3 meters tall, and the muscles on its upper limbs were very hypertrophic, just like those exaggeratedly bodybuilding people who used steroids that Sushihua occasionally saw when scrolling through social media. Its skin was covered with bulging blue veins, making it look even more ferocious and terrifying, standing out among the crowd of normal zombies. Ouyang Sushihua's eyes lit up. This was the one. She trusted her judgment. As if to provoke it, Ouyang Sushihua deliberately drove the car in front of it. Sure enough, this giant zombie was immediately attracted by Ouyang Sushihua and joined the group of zombies chasing her. Ouyang Sushihua glanced at the rearview mirror. It's not that fast. Its speed is still the same as a normal zombie. In this way, Ouyang Sushihua led a small zombie horde and a special zombie, heading towards the activity complex. Because the zombies were relatively slow, and combined with Ouyang Sushihua's poor driving skills and the many detours she took, it took a long time for her to return to the activity complex. The people in the activity complex were already braced for a formidable enemy. The members of the archery club had long been standing by the railing, while others held some less important heavy objects, ready to use them as throwing weapons. Amidst the sound of the car engine, Ouyang Sushihua's car slowly appeared. Along with the small zombie horde and that very obvious special zombie. Damn. What is wrong with her? She has to sabotage us, someone cursed loudly. Stinking B*TCH. How is that zombie so big? Has our school ever had someone that tall? What is that? Tang Yin ignored them. That special zombie had caught his attention. In his field of vision, a line of text slowly appeared above the special zombie's head, strength-type zombie. And a white crystal glowing with a dim light in its brain. Tang Yin remembered that somewhat bizarre dream. Could this also be his ability? Seeing that she had led the zombies to the activity complex, Ouyang Sushihua was prepared to turn and retreat. But after all, she was a novice driver, and combined with the fear of being trapped in a small space by the zombies. She stepped on the gas pedal thinking it was the brake. The next moment, the car crashed into the wall, and Ouyang Sushihua was left completely disoriented. She stumbled and opened the car door, wanting to escape inside. Open the door. Let me in. Ouyang Sushihua cried out loudly. Shut up. Followed by endless curses. Ouyang Sushihua felt incredibly resentful for a moment. I just wanted to get you killed, and you actually dare not save me. Circumstances were stronger than people. She immediately wanted to go around to the back, where there were still cars parked. But there was no chance. Accompanied by a scream from Ouyang Sushihua, her head was grabbed by the strength-type zombie and swung around like a whip right on the spot. Slap, slap, slap. Before she could even let out a scream, Ouyang Sushihua's body was smashed heavily against the ground. The strength-type zombie smashed her 3 times in a row. The fragile neck of an ordinary person snapped directly, her head was crushed, and Ouyang Sushihua's headless corpse was smashed directly against the wall. That could no longer be called a corpse, it would be more accurate to say it was a blood-stained piece of rotten hemp rope. As if it hadn't had enough fun, the strength-type zombie began to charge at the iron gate again. The iron gate appeared precarious for a moment, as if it were about to be breached. Despair appeared in Qin Yuan's eyes. He hadn't expected that Ouyang Sushue could actually bring back such a monster of a zombie. Yo, this zombie is unexpectedly big. Is it a new type? Accompanied by a frivolous remark, everyone's gaze gathered on the figure downstairs carrying a tang sword. It's okay, I'm back. Chapter 30, New Type of Zombie. It's okay, I'm back. Zhuan closed the car door and observed the situation before her. The most eye-catching thing was that huge strength-type zombie. A new type? Time rewinds to over 20 minutes ago. Just as Zhuan was planning to drive off, she happened to receive a message from Tang Yun. After reading Tang Yun's message, Zhuan's expression turned grave. She wanted to send a message back, but discovered that she couldn't send any messages at all. The internet was down? Come to think of it, it had been nearly a week since the apocalypse began, so it was quite normal for the internet to be disconnected. There's no time to explain, Zhuan said to Feng Bei, who was still modifying something nearby. You, go notify Hao Jianwei immediately. Tell him to prepare 4 vehicles, just having a driver for each car is enough, and head to the Student Union Comprehensive Activity Building in District XX of Yunzhou University. This is an emergency, I'm heading there first. Seeing the look on Zhuan's face, Feng Bei understood that this matter was no small thing. He immediately put down his work and went to deliver the message. Zhuan immediately got into her car and started the engine. I hope I can make it in time, Tang Yun. Mission has arrived, everything will be fine. When Feng Wanzhou saw that figure, the stone in his heart finally dropped. Everyone present had seen Zhuan's strength. The shocking scene of Zhuan slaughtering hundreds of normal zombies that day was still firmly etched in their memories. However, they didn't know if this huge zombie before them would pose a threat to Zhuan. Everyone was sweating nervously. Zhuan ignored the normal zombies rushing towards her. Ouyang Sushue's blood from the ground rose up and struck the leading zombies directly. The heads of these few zombies exploded instantly, blood splattering everywhere. Is this psychokinesis? Tang Yun's pupils constricted. Could psychokinesis achieve such an effect? Everyone was shocked by Zhuan's miraculous technique. Then, an even more shocking scene occurred. Dozens of blood droplets were constantly hovering around Zhuan. The zombies kept rushing towards her, but these droplets of blood were like a protective barrier, ruthlessly piercing through the skulls of the zombies one by one. Zhuan hadn't even moved an inch. In just over 10 seconds, all the normal zombies present had fallen. Only that special zombie remained. At this moment, the entire scene was silent. Even Tang Yun, who considered himself to know quite a lot about Zhuan, had his perception refreshed by her once again. Last time, Zhuan's methods were still within the realm of human understanding, but now, they had entered the realm of cultivation. Tang Yun felt a deep sense of disparity. He felt that no one could ever catch up to Zhuan. Zhuan didn't say much, as if she were long accustomed to this scene. At this moment, even the most foolish zombie realized something was wrong. The strength-type zombie, which had been obsessed with smashing the door, finally smelled the scent of Zhuan's flesh and blood. It began to rush fiercely towards Zhuan. It had to be said that when a person over 2 meters tall, as imposing as Zhao Ming, rushed towards you, the sense of oppression was truly immense. The strength-type zombie swung a punch directly at Zhuan. Feeling the incoming wind from the punch, Zhuan said softly, I won't kill you easily. The next moment, Zhuan's figure was sent flying straight back like a cannonball, slamming into the wall. Everyone experienced a roller coaster of emotions. Zhuan, who had just been slaughtering everyone, was taken out in a second. Feng Wanzhou rested his hands on the railing and shouted with all his might, Mission. I'm fine, Zhuan's voice came softly, I was just testing it. Zhuan had let down her guard because she wanted to test how strong this special zombie was. Its strength was about 2 to 3 times that of a normal zombie, roughly equivalent to her own constitution of 25 points. which was her own evolved state. In other words, was this zombie also an evolved type? Then this zombie had only just begun to evolve. However, even though it had only just begun to evolve, Juan glanced at Ouyang Sushua's headless corpse on the ground, though she didn't know the name of the person this corpse belonged to. If an ordinary person had taken that punch, their body would have been torn to pieces. If it had been Song Xiaoqian, who was also a strength awakened, she would have been severely injured and would have lost her ability to fight immediately. Seeing Juan standing up perfectly fine again, the strength-type zombie became even more furious. It seemed surprised as to why this little bug before it hadn't died. Next, the strength-type zombie followed the same routine as it had when dealing with Ouyang Sushue, reaching out to grab at Juan's head. Juan blocked its hand with one of her own. By comparison, Juan's hand looked fair, tender, and small, as if it couldn't even be gripped. But it was precisely this hand that blocked the strength-type zombie, preventing it from advancing even an inch. The speed is also that of a normal zombie. If this is all the strength it has, to be honest, I'm quite disappointed. Regardless of whether the strength-type zombie could understand her, Juan muttered to herself. Qin Yuan and the others saw Juan handling the zombie with ease and felt relieved. This pitiful strength-type zombie could only rage impotently. The next moment, Juan swung the Tang sword in her hand and shattered the strength-type zombie's head. When she shattered its head, Juan felt that the Tang sword in her hand received a trace of nourishment. This was a feeling she had never experienced when killing previous zombies. Killed evolved type strength-type zombie, evolution point +3. There were 3 o'clock points. It really was a stronger zombie, Juan mused. Rest assured, it's safe now, Juan shouted up to the floor above. Qin Yuan finally snapped out of his daze and immediately rolled up his sleeves, saying, "Quick, let's clear the things below together." Tang Yu grabbed Tang Yun's hand. This was truly a disaster out of nowhere. It's a good thing Sister An has become even stronger. Tang Yu nodded, feeling a bit bitter in his heart for some reason. Even though he had abilities, his current ability was too weak, and he couldn't do anything. If Juan hadn't come to save the day, he wouldn't even have been able to protect his own sister and friends. Soon, everyone cleared away the debris, and Juan slowly walked up. Qin Yuan led everyone in collectively bowing to Juan, "Many thanks to Miss An for saving our lives." Juan could feel that these expressions of gratitude were sincere. Juan nodded, "No need for such formalities. We are all survivors, and it is normal for survivors to help each other. To take a step back, we are all human. In the apocalypse, everyone must strive for the continuation of human civilization." Qin Yuan was momentarily speechless. He hadn't expected Juan's thinking to be so profound. Only someone strong enough would think about such issues, right? After this incident with Ouyang Sushue, Qin Yuan also realized that there were simply too many zombies in the university environment. Furthermore, his group of survivors had no strong power at all. If this continued, their numbers would only slowly diminish in future survival, or they would be wiped out in a single accident. These classmates had entrusted their lives to him, Qin Yuan, and he couldn't lead everyone to their deaths. Miss An is truly ambitious. Have you been conducting operations to rescue survivors all this time? Juan nodded. I have established a shelter, and I am doing my best to protect kind people. Hearing this, a light suddenly lit up in Qin Yuan's eyes. Looking at Qin Yuan, whose eyes were like high-beam headlights, a slight smile appeared at the corner of Juan's mouth, and she seized the opportunity. It just so happens that there are still quite a few rooms in my shelter. If you are willing, you can join my shelter. How about it? The smile at the corner of Juan's mouth grew thicker, and she extended her right hand towards Qin Yuan. This is an invitation directly from Manager An. Is that really okay? Sister An? Tang Yu was almost ready to pounce. Yay! Feng Wenzhou was almost ready to jump 3 feet high. Now he could also get close to Juan and learn a move or two. We'll all be safe from now on, boo-hoo. Qin Yuan also extended his hand. Of course we are willing. Just at this moment, Juan's convoy slowly drove over from the distance, like hope itself. Chapter 31, I am the big boss. You arrived just in time, Juan remarked dryly. The scene reminded her a bit of movies or tokusatsu shows where reinforcements only arrive late, after the protagonist and villain have finished fighting, just to secure the kill. Seeing the scattered remains of the strength-type zombie all over the ground, Hao Jianwei was no longer surprised. The vehicles in the convoy stopped one after another. Managerin, we have arrived. Juan nodded. Good, please wait a moment. She then said to the group, everyone, get ready. Pack up your belongings and supplies. We will depart in about 20 minutes. The group dispersed. Juan's gaze fell on Tang Yun. Tang Yun, didn't you tell me before that you awakened an ability similar to telekinesis? Could you demonstrate it for me? Tang Yun paused for a moment, then performed the floating object manipulation. Juan seemed lost in thought and said, can your ability control anything? For example, water or blood? This single sentence from Juan was a revelation to Tang Yun. It had to be said that Tang Yun had previously fallen into a cognitive trap. He had only thought about controlling solid objects and hadn't considered liquids. Juan only thought of this because she herself possessed the crimson blood manipulation technique. Wait for me. Tang Yun ran back inside, took out a bottle of mineral water, poured a capful, and tried it according to his previous method. The water did not float. Water has no constant shape, you must learn to adapt to it, Juan reminded him from the side. Sure enough, under Tang Yun's careful adjustment, he finally managed to levitate a drop of water about the size of a fingernail. Impressive, Juan said, not sparing any praise. I think in time, you'll be able to reach the level I just demonstrated. I can do that too? Tang Yun was surprised. Juan nodded. Of course. Zombies are evolving, and humans are evolving too. Although I don't yet understand the way awakened ones strengthen their power, logically speaking, the co-evolution of zombies and humans won't end here. It's just that we haven't found the method yet. Speaking of which, Tang Yun recalled the image of the strength-type zombie he had seen earlier. There's one more thing, Sisterin. I think I've awakened another ability, Tang Yun said. Just now, with that zombie, I could see its name. It was called a strength-type zombie. Also, I vaguely saw a blurry white crystal inside its brain. Oh? Juan was surprised. She hadn't expected Tang Yun to awaken two abilities. One was the late-game invincible telekinesis, and the other was an information ability that could see zombie information. In some novels, this was definitely a protagonist setup for Tang Yun. A white crystal? Juan grabbed Tang Yun by the arm. Wait a moment. With that, she dragged Tang Yun and jumped down from the second floor, landing directly beside the corpse of the strength-type zombie. Juan thrust her blade directly into the zombie's shattered brain and poked around. She didn't find a crystal, only a pile of white powder that looked somewhat out of place. Thinking back to her blade just now, she felt a slight sensation of nourishment. Perhaps it was because she had shattered the crystal. I ruined it by accident. What a pity, Juan shook her head. However, more evolved zombies would appear in the future, and even enhanced type, mutated type, and extreme type. Juan drained the blood from her blade and sheathed it. At this moment, Qin Yuan and his group had finished packing and all walked downstairs. Wenyi-san. Upon hearing this, Juan knew who it was. With an agile sidestep, she dodged Fang Wenzhou's pounce. Who exactly are you? Juan was speechless. Fang Wenzhou smiled sheepishly. Hello, Sisterin. My name is Fang Wenzhou. I just want to become stronger. Looking at the starry-eyed gaze Fang Wenzhou directed at her, Juan fell into silence. Just like last time, Qin Yuan grabbed Fang Wenzhou by the back of his collar. Stop messing around. Don't cause trouble for Missin. No, Qin Yuan, you jerk, let me go. After this small interlude, everyone boarded the vehicles, and the supplies were properly stowed away. Following Zhu En's command, the convoy started. The convoy of 5 vehicles headed in the direction of Yunjing residential area. Zhuan focused on driving, while Tang Yin sat in the passenger seat. "Missin, you established a shelter?" "That's right," Zhuan replied. "It's surprising, but also not surprising." Tang Yin gave a vague reply. "What do you mean by that?" Zhuan became interested. "Because I feel that Missin is the type of person who focuses more on herself, but at the same time, wouldn't completely disregard others." Zhuan laughed. "When I first established the shelter, I just felt it was too much trouble. There were always people who wanted to target me, mess with me, and it was incredibly annoying. So, I had to let them know who the real big boss is." Tang Yin was stunned for a moment. "But I feel it's not bad, surprisingly not bad. I am also needed by others. I have to be responsible for their safety, manage their order, and find their supplies." Zhuan's expression became increasingly peaceful. "So this is what it feels like to be needed by others." "It's something I had never experienced before." "Interesting, right?" Tang Yin nodded. He hadn't expected Zhuan's thoughts to be like this. "When you arrive at the residential area, you will work with Song Xiaoqian. You are both awakened ones, that's what I'm calling you, people who have awakened special abilities for now. The safety of the residential area needs your protection when I'm not around." Tang Yin seemed to have caught on to something. "Is Missin also always out killing zombies?" "That's right. I also want to contribute my meager strength. Every time I kill a zombie, the survivors in Yunzhou City are a little safer." Zhuan struggled to suppress a smirk. She couldn't very well say she was killing zombies for evolution points and that protecting everyone was just a side benefit. Tang Yan's admiration for Zhuan went up another level: powerful, self-disciplined, kind, and not a saint. After all that, he was still going to follow Zhuan. The convoy smoothly drove into the entrance of the residential area. As soon as Tang Yan saw the overall environment of the residential area, he found that it was clean and tidy, without the corpses, bloodstains, and broken vehicles found everywhere in typical residential areas. It was just like before the apocalypse. The students in the convoy opened their eyes wide. "Is this the place we are going to live?" Next, Zhuan had the numerous students get off the vehicles, called over Hao Jianwei, and began to speak to the crowd. "Students, welcome to the Yunjing residential area shelter. As you can see, I am currently the manager of this shelter. We now have about 40 people in our shelter, and your joining is a significant boost to our shelter's strength." It had to be said that college students were well behaved, they weren't noisy and listened attentively. "The rules of our shelter are very simple. First, everyone must contribute labor to exchange for resources. Second, those who work more get more. For example, going out to move supplies or this emergency mission to pick you up, such outdoor missions are all rewarded. Third, all rules follow those from before the apocalypse, no fighting or killing is allowed at will." "Do you understand?" "Understood," the crowd replied in unison. Everyone sighed in their hearts, they had come to a good place. Finally, they didn't have to experience the fear of being besieged by zombies downstairs every day. "Good, as long as you understand. You are all college students. Although finals week is over, those of you with knowledge and skills, such as agriculture, medicine, repairs, welding, etc., can privately find Deputy Manager Hao Jianwei." Zhuan patted Hao Jianwei's shoulder with her left hand. "Our shelter treats talent well. Alright, my speech ends here. Go find Deputy Manager Hao to get your room keys. From now on, you are official members of the Yunjing residential area shelter. It's truly unbelievable. Outside is a scene of apocalypse, yet here it is so harmonious," Qin Yuan exclaimed. All of this was thanks to one woman. At this moment, someone quietly approached Hao Jianwei and spoke hesitantly. "Deputy Manager Hao, I don't know if my skill can be considered practical." "It's fine, go ahead. I am a teaching major." Chapter 32, The Future Must Be a True Dragon. "A teaching major?" Hao Jianwei raised an eyebrow, finding himself in a difficult spot, so he could only call for help. Managerin? Zhuan, who was on her way to check the residential complex gate, was called over. She snapped out of her thoughts. Why are you calling me? Managerin, it's like this. There's a student among this group who is a teaching major. I don't know if this is useful. Zhuan pondered for a moment. I do remember that there is a child in our residential complex, right? The son of Yang Lihua from the second building, Yang Yutao. This name has great potential. In the future, he must be a true dragon. That works. I think that as we take in more survivors, there will be more children. We should plan for children's education early. Zhuan looked at the university student. What is your name? Teacher Shen. Teacher Shen? Truly a good name, born to be a teacher. Zhuan had Hao Jianwei call Yang Lihua and Yang Yutao over, and said to Teacher Shen, I am temporarily appointing you as the head of our residential complex's education group. Although your group only has one member right now, believe me, there will be more members later. Teacher Shen was overwhelmed with trepidation. As they spoke, Hao Jianwei arrived, leading the two of them. Upon seeing Zhuan, Yang Lihua looked excited. Managerin, what do you need us for? Zhuan looked at Yang Yutao, a little boy who looked like he was carved from jade, only 7 years old, likely in the 2nd grade. Zhuan smiled and said, It's like this, Auntie Yang. I was thinking, even though it is the apocalypse now, we still cannot give up on learning and production. These are the assets our residential complex needs to stand firm in the apocalypse. Yang Lihua didn't quite understand but nodded submissively. Coincidentally, I have a teaching major student here who can teach your child. When a child is 7 or 8, learning is very important for developing their intelligence and promoting brain development. Yang Lihua was speechless for a moment, followed by deep emotion. She hadn't expected Zhuan to think so far ahead for the development of the residential complex. Thank you, Managerin, for thinking of us, mother and son. Yang Lihua led Yang Yutao over. Come, thank Auntie Zhuan. The child didn't know he had been sold out and foolishly thanked Zhuan. Zhuan looked at Yang Yutao with a smile. I never expected that one day, I would become a villain. By the way, are you missing any textbooks or workbooks? I can help you find them when I go out this afternoon. Yang Lihua repeatedly declined. How could I trouble Managerin again? We have these things at home. Zhuan nodded, and the matter was settled. Then that's it for now. I'm going to go check on other things. Subsequently, Zhuan arrived at the residential complex gate. After a day of modifications by Feng Bei, it looked quite secure. At the very least, a small car would have no chance of posing a threat. Seeing Zhuan come to inspect, Feng Bei put down his work. Managerin, you're here. Zhuan nodded and praised, it looks pretty good. The security of the residential complex has been taken to the next level. When can we start working on the perimeter wall? Feng Bei thought for a moment and said, the gate will be finished this afternoon. As for the perimeter wall, we can only install some barbed wire to prevent people from climbing over. It's very weak against zombies and can only be used to guard against people who want to climb in. Things like zombies don't fear pain at all. Even if they have some flesh cut off by barbed wire, it doesn't matter, it doesn't even affect their movements. Even taking a step back, if it really causes damage and traps a zombie, the zombies behind can just trample over the corpses of the ones in front and pass through unscathed. Wars in history were indeed like that. Additionally, Zhuan looked at the perimeter wall. The residential complex's wall was only about 2.5 meters high. It was enough to block ordinary zombies, but if it were a strength-type zombie like the one from today that was over 2 meters tall just by itself, it probably wouldn't be enough. Perhaps there will be even taller and bigger zombies in the future. What a bother, Zhuan rubbed her temples. Currently, the members of the security team include the 2 awakened ones, Song Xiaoqian and Tang Yun, as well as Qin Yuan and some original residents of the residential complex. Besides conventional weapons, there are even the 3 guns Zhuan found at the police station. It should be more than enough to deal with scattered survivors. Zhuan has also been keeping the residential complex as the center, slowly clearing out zombies. Therefore, the residential complex will be safer overall in the future. It's just that she's afraid of people coveting it. Zhuan came to Ma Ning's side. How is the farming going? Ma Ning said, the first batch of seeds has already been planted. The early bok choy can be harvested in a month. Not bad, Zhuan nodded with satisfaction. The situation in the residential complex has been steadily improving, and the residents are also willing to work hard to make the residential complex even more perfect. However, the growth of the vegetables still requires a water supply. The current water supply could also be cut off at any time. Didn't the internet go down this morning? Manager in. Zhuan nodded. You're right, I'll keep an eye on that. After saying this, Zhuan went out. She needed to continue going out to kill zombies. Tianhai Base, inside a conference room. Xiang Haoran had just finished a connection with other bases. The calls between the bases used dedicated military lines, which were very stable and had not been cut off. The situation was not optimistic. Only 3 bases remained in the entire country, the Imperial Capital Base, the Dunhuang Base, and the Tianhai Base. Other bases had temporarily lost contact, perhaps the leadership had all died, or they had completely fallen. At the same time, the overall environment of the military was not optimistic, according to the information exchanged between the bases. If the zombie outbreak had just been 80% of the global population mutating into zombies simultaneously, after the initial losses, they could have quickly regrouped. The key was that the entire globe had simultaneously been hit by a high-frequency electromagnetic pulse. It had no effect on ordinary, low-power civilian communication equipment, but the base's command centers, high-tech radar, and fighter jet control systems were all paralyzed. The military had fallen into a state where generals did not know their soldiers, and soldiers did not know their generals. This news could not be released to the public. After all, this news was too panic-inducing. What kind of power, what kind of civilization could have achieved this without anyone noticing? Furthermore, with the collapse of the authorities no longer had the capability to announce it. Even though only 3 bases remained, the internal environment between these 3 bases was not very clear. For example, Xiang Haoran was a biology academician who specialized in research here, but because everyone with a military background had died, he was the only one with the highest seniority left, so he was pushed into this position. Xiang Haoran rubbed his brow and said to Chen Jingxian beside him, "Let's go, we are returning to the laboratory." Chen Jingxian was a PhD student he had brought up and also worked here. Xiang Haoran thought highly of him and was training him as a core disciple. Returning to the laboratory, looking at the zombie blood under the electron microscope, Xiang Haoran did not speak for a long time. The base had also gone out to capture some zombies for experiments, but they couldn't research anything. These zombies, on the surface, seemed to violate the conservation of energy. They could live without eating or drinking, and they didn't gnaw on other animals, only being interested in human flesh and blood. It was like a product created specifically to exterminate humanity. The blood of these zombies was basically no different from that of a normal person. Yes, even with the base's almost most advanced scientific instruments, Xiang Haoran could not find any anomalies. It was also possible that those anomalies were too minute, exceeding the limits of current human biological exploration, or it was possible that these anomalies were disguised as normal matter. What exactly are these zombies? At this moment, a person who looked like a communications soldier walked in and reported to Chen Jingxian. Subsequently, Chen Jingxian relayed to Xiang Haoran, "There is a small group of scattered military forces that says they want to return to our Tianhai base." Xiang Haoran nodded slightly. "Did they intercept our communication channel?" "Yes. If they are willing to come, then let them come. An extra bit of power for the base is a good thing. After all, we need to concentrate our strength to accomplish big things." "Where are they now?" "Not too far from us." Chen Jingxian paused. "Yunzhou City." Chapter 33, Camouflage Ability. Yunzhou City, another district. And you looked at the phone in his hand that could no longer connect, then looked up at the computer, which was also disconnected from the internet. He couldn't help but howl at the sky in anger. Heavens, you can bring the apocalypse, but you cannot take away my internet. How am I supposed to live? However, Yu's eyes darted around. I already thought of this. I downloaded plenty of single-player games in advance, the online login requirements have been cracked, and I've downloaded countless web novels. As long as the power doesn't go out, my life will still be sweet. Let's rewind to the night and you couldn't stand the hunger anymore and went out to find supplies. What's going on? It's not biting me? And you looked at the rotting face of the zombie in front of him, subconsciously swallowing his saliva. He performed a suicidal action, waving his hand in front of the zombie, but the zombie ignored him completely, as if he weren't even there. The zombies can't see me. A surge of uncontrollable ecstasy rose in Yu's heart. He had once watched a zombie movie called World War Z, where the protagonist eventually discovered the pattern behind why zombies didn't bite people. Injecting oneself with a lethal but curable virus would make zombies temporarily perceive you as a low-value target not worth infecting, thus avoiding zombie attacks. The image of the protagonist holding a medicine kit in one hand while drinking a cola in the other left a particularly deep impression on him. The ability to be ignored by zombies often appears in apocalyptic zombie novels. It was a power that previously only existed in fantasy, and he never expected it to actually fall upon him. Yu's heart was pounding wildly, and it took about half a minute for it to calm down. Yu climbed up and rummaged around, finding a stick in the kitchen. If I attack the zombie, will it stop ignoring me and start attacking me instead? Yu frowned slightly, realizing something was wrong. So, he turned on the music on his phone and placed it outside the door. Sure enough, the zombie acted like a Dorchan from Genshin Impact, suddenly lurching and lunging directly outside the door. But it couldn't find any living person, so it could only open its mouth and look around in confusion. Yu followed it out and retrieved his phone. Stupid zombies, you just can't beat me. You can't beat me. As if venting the fear he felt earlier, Yu laughed and cursed loudly. Then, he slammed the door shut. Phew, closing the door, Yu leaned against it. Come on, let's start looting. I'm absolutely starving. That night, Yu returned with bags full of supplies, loaded to the brim. It was also that night that Yu scrolled through his phone repeatedly, trying to see if he could find any new news or information. Or rather, if there was anyone similar to him. Deep in his heart, a dark thought flickered. He hoped he was the only one in the world with this ability. While others struggled to survive, he could live comfortably, and whatever he chose to bestow upon others would be enough for them to be eternally grateful. There was no news on the video platforms. After all, the video companies had collapsed. At this point, no one was willing to share their lives anymore. However, because all the moderators were dead, some people had uploaded many videos of abuse and murder to the platform. Just looking at the thumbnails was enough to make Yu gag for quite a while. Seeing that he couldn't find any new information, Yu opened WeChat. In the pinned WeChat group, there hadn't been any new messages for a long time. The landlord was likely dead long ago, Gu Qing was already dead, and he didn't know about Zhuan, but seeing how she was able to kill Gu Qing on the first day of the apocalypse, she was ruthless enough that she was probably still living just fine, Yu calculated in his mind. It seems that now, Yu suddenly sighed with emotion, I don't really have any people or things left that connect me to this world. In the following days, Yu remained decadent at home, playing games and gorging himself. Anyway, the zombies wouldn't bite him, so if he needed anything, he could just go to his neighbors' homes and borrow it. Yu died. The death notification popped up on the computer screen. Yu cursed, saying this boss was truly perverted, his left hand habitually reaching for the spot where he usually kept his cola. Feeling his hand grasp nothing, Yu was surprised. It's already gone? There was no other way, he had to go down to the nearby supermarket. After all, looting neighbors' corpses, It was hard to find even a single bottle after searching for ages. Since he was going to the supermarket to restock, and you whistled, grabbed his holy sword of physics, shouldered a large travel backpack, and walked out the door. And you walked out of his home. Now that the elevator was no longer working, he had to take the stairs. Afterwards, he would have to climb the stairs again. And you weighed 180 90 kilograms, so climbing stairs was quite a challenge for him. He had to once again marvel at his camouflage ability, otherwise, he would have been eaten by zombies long ago. There were many bloodstains in the stairwell that had turned dark brown, which was a shocking sight. After going down 2 floors, and you saw the corpse of a zombie whose head had been smashed in. Going down 2 more floors, he saw another human corpse with its abdomen eaten away by zombies. And you sighed and hurried downstairs. Once he stepped out of the main entrance, the tragic scene below was even more horrifying. Is this the apocalypse? And you muttered to himself. The zombies wandering nearby acted as if you didn't exist, not lunging at him to bite him at all. And you didn't pay any more attention to them and just walked in the direction of the supermarket in his memory. As soon as he entered the supermarket, he saw many chaotic, overturned shelves, as well as far more zombies and human corpses than outside. After all, a supermarket was an unavoidable spot for obtaining supplies in the apocalypse. Many betrayals and battles must have taken place here. And you casually grabbed a shopping basket, completely ignoring a zombie wandering near the edge of a shelf. This, and this. And you took all the potato chips off the shelf. He even grabbed some red dates and goji berries, followed by bread and similar food items. Next, and you opened the refrigerator and took bottles of cola. Of course, he took Pepsi. He casually opened a bottle of cola, the sound of the carbonation releasing making him feel physically and mentally pleased. The Coke faction should all be purged, and you joked. Unexpectedly, even in the apocalypse, the rivalry between Coke and Pepsi still couldn't stop. Just as Inu was sweeping through the supermarket, suddenly, he heard a few messy footsteps. This kind of hearing was something Inu had practiced while playing FPS games, judging the distance of enemies by the sound of gunfire and their positions by the sound of footsteps. Inu slowly put down the shopping basket in his hand and picked up the physics crowbar nearby. Right now, the zombies were completely unable to pose a threat to him, so the only things that could harm him were humans. One can never be too careful about the human heart, he had to be on guard. Han Xiaoxiao and Han Rushuang walked into the supermarket back to back. The two were sisters. Han Rushuang was a college student, and Han Xiaoxiao was a high school student. Originally, the two students were on summer vacation, playing games at home properly, when unexpectedly the apocalypse suddenly descended. Their parents were working outside and never returned after that. They waited in vain until they exhausted all the food stored in their home. The two sisters had no choice but to go down together to look for supplies. Han Rushuang leaned against the wall, carefully poking her head into the door to check the situation. Because that zombie was in the rear area, blocked by the shelves in the front, Han Rushuang did not see the zombie. She turned back and nodded at her younger sister, Han Xiaoxiao, meaning, it's safe inside for now. Next, the two entered the supermarket back to back. Clatter. No one expected that Han Xiaoxiao, who was back to back with her sister, would suddenly step on an empty mineral water bottle. Because Han Xiaoxiao had been facing away from her sister, she couldn't see what obstacles were in front of her. Han Rushuang could see the ground in front of her and lifted her foot to avoid it. Due to a blind spot in her thinking, she also didn't expect that Han Xiaoxiao would actually step on something. The two looked at each other, their eyes filled with uncontrollable panic. Roar. The zombie that was wandering behind the shelves suddenly heard the noise and lunged out, appearing in front of the two. It's over. The two sisters felt their hearts turn cold. Relying on themselves, two women, how could they take down a zombie? Xiaoxiao, you go first, sister will cover. Han Rushuang hadn't finished her sentence when the zombie was suddenly struck hard in the head by a crowbar that appeared out of nowhere. Yo, hello there. Chapter 34, The Truth is Only One. Yo, hello there. And Yu retracted the crowbar in his hand. There is a saying that fat people are potential stocks. A full-strength blow from a 200-gene Chinese strongman is not something just any zombie can withstand. Originally, Yu had intended to sit back and observe the situation, not wanting to expose himself. After all, this zombie was at the back shelves. As long as he didn't do anything stupid or make too much noise, he could just grab some supplies and leave. He definitely wouldn't be discovered. And Yu hadn't expected these two to have such outrageous maneuvers. They had actually managed to lure the zombie out. And Yu wasn't some heinous villain, so how could he just stand by and watch them die? Ah? Han Xiaoxiao and Han Rushuang were both stunned for a moment. They hadn't expected there to be anyone else in this supermarket, and combined with the scene that had just unfolded, it was all too shocking for them. Thank you. Han Rushuang was the first to react and offered her thanks. Me too, thank you so much. Han Xiaoxiao bowed slightly, speaking while sizing up the Yu in front of her. Over 1.70 meters tall, carrying a fully packed large backpack, his physique looked to be nearly 200 gene, and he seemed quite kind-hearted. While Han Rushuang was sizing up Yu was also observing the two of them. Both of them looked like the youthful and energetic type, wearing high ponytails and simple but clean clothes. There was a bit of apocalyptic panic about them, but this only made him feel a bit more pity for them. Yes, Yu had shamefully fallen for them. My name is Yu, I just happened to be here to get some supplies, Yu spoke first, breaking the awkwardness. My name is Han Rushuang said, gesturing toward Han Xiaoxiao. This is my younger sister, Han Xiaoxiao. The two of us are also here to look for supplies. Yu felt their survival awareness was truly absurd, so he asked, how did you get here? Do you want me to find a car and drive you back? Han Xiaoxiao shook her head, no need, our home is just upstairs, very close. Besides, we don't have a car and don't know how to drive. Han Xiaoxiao was suddenly glared at by Han Rushuang, and only then did she realize she had said the wrong thing. It was the apocalypse now, how could she just tell someone her home address? Seeing this, Yu smiled, it's okay, I'm a good person, trust me. Bad guys always say they are good people, Han Xiaoxiao thought to herself. Thank you, brother, and really, no need. Let us start collecting supplies. Seeing this, Yu didn't say anything more and just returned to the refrigerator to stuff the items from the shopping basket into his backpack. After a while, the two sisters finished collecting and were about to head back. Let me escort you. Han Rushuang gave Han Xiaoxiao a deep look, her gaze full of meaning. What else could they do? There were so many zombies outside, neither of them knew how to drive, and they couldn't get far at all. They had only dared to come downstairs because the supermarket was right below them. They had absolutely no ability to fight zombies head-on. And it was also Han Xiaoxiao who had exposed the fact that they lived upstairs. If Yu wasn't a good person, then Xiaoxiao had already caused harm twice. It's okay, I'm really a good person. Yu patted his chest, guaranteeing it once again. Seeing that refusing was useless, Han Rushuang could only smile and say, I believe you, Yu. After saying this, the three of them formed a formation and walked slowly toward the stairs, sticking to the wall. Among them, Yu took the lead, keeping a distance far ahead of the two. Entering the stairwell, the three of them went all the way up. Yu hadn't even gone up 2 floors before he was panting with exhaustion due to his weight and the large backpack he was carrying. But he still insisted on being in front and staying a floor ahead of them. This forced the two of them to wait for Yu to rest, and they started to complain a bit. Yu rounded a corner when suddenly, a zombie's face appeared right in front of him. Yu trembled inside, then used the holy sword of physics to take the zombie out. The zombie fell to the ground, not yet dead, letting out terrifying roars, and was then smashed to pieces by Yu. Hearing the sound, the two rushed up and saw the zombie lying on the ground. That's strange, it definitely wasn't here when we came down, Han Xiaoxiao muttered. It must have wandered over from the corridor. Han Rushuang looked at the zombie on the ground, then at Yu, a flash of light in her eyes, wondering what she was thinking. Next, there was another zombie, But this one didn't make any sound at all before being beaten to death by Yu with one strike. Alright, we've arrived at our home. Thank you so very much, Brother-in. Upon reaching the corridor, Han Rushuang thanked Yu once again. Yu appeared somewhat shy. It's nothing, this is what I should do. Even in the apocalypse, one must keep kindness in their heart. What does Brother-in plan to do next? Well, this, Yu fumbled around in his pocket and pulled out his phone. Come, want to add me on WeChat? Han Rushuang's brain was completely crashed by Yu. What time is it, and you still want to add WeChat? Big brother, this is the apocalypse, could you please be a bit more serious? Looking at the look of someone watching a fool in Han Rushuang's eyes, Yu slapped his forehead, looking a bit embarrassed. Sorry, I forgot the network is down. Just a reflex, just a reflex. Han Rushuang handed the key to Han Xiaoxiao, signaling with her eyes for Han Xiaoxiao to go home first, while she stayed behind to talk to Yu. After another bout of silence, Han Rushuang looked at Yu, her tone calm. Brother-in, you must have the ability to be ignored by zombies, right? Yu's heart suddenly felt like a thunderclap had exploded within it. They had only met for half an hour, how had his biggest secret been exposed? How did you know? Yu stammered. Han Rushuang brushed her bangs back with her hand and began her performance. I was suspicious from the very beginning. First, your physique definitely lacks excellent mobility, it's impossible for you to outrun a zombie. Second, that zombie in the supermarket didn't notice you at all. This could be explained as a coincidence, but I found a freshly opened bottle of cola at the refrigerator. Logically, the sound of opening a cola should definitely be enough to attract a zombie. Third, it's your action of deliberately staying one floor ahead of us while going upstairs, as well as your eerie ability to kill zombies without them making a sound. In summary, combined with my personal deductions, Brother-in, you possess the ability to be ignored by zombies. Because you won't be noticed by zombies, you can act recklessly. Yu was already breaking out in a cold sweat halfway through, and by the end, his forehead was like a small faucet turned on. Please, is she even human? She was able to analyze so much in such a short time together. Sure enough, the survivors outside were all too terrifying. If he were an ordinary person, he would probably be eaten clean in the blink of an eye. Han Rushuang changed the subject. However, I have also confirmed one thing. Yu immediately asked, what? You are indeed a good person. Han Rushuang reached out her hand toward Yu. Brother-in, would you mind joining us? Yu immediately widened his eyes. What? Join you? Han Rushuang nodded with a smile. In the apocalypse, people should help each other in a friendly way, shouldn't they? Brother-in possesses this kind of ability, and I think it's also heaven's way of wanting you to help others and cultivate your own moral character. Yu was so flattered by her words that he felt light and airy, as if his feet weren't touching the ground. Why am I flying? Okay. It just so happens that my home is nearby too. If you two sisters need anything, just call me, and I will definitely get it done for you. Yu made a grand declaration directly. Then Brother-in, goodbye, let's talk if anything comes up. Han Rushuang said with a smile. Walking down the stairs, Yu was still savoring Han Rushuang's smile. She smiled at me. Yu, who had been bullied by classmates since childhood because of his obesity, was receiving straightforward kindness from a member of the opposite sex for the first time. Hee, Yu couldn't help but reveal a lecherous grin, attracting a zombie over, but it couldn't find its target and could only let out two depressed groans. Yu smashed it with his club. What are you groaning about? Chapter 35, Shoddy workmanship can be fatal. Outside the supermarket entrance, shortly after Yu and his two companions had left, a car slowly drove in from the distance and pulled up to the supermarket entrance. Naturally, the vehicle attracted a few zombies, but the person inside didn't seem to be in any rush. They brazenly opened the car door. Wearing a baseball cap that obscured their features, they held nothing but a stick in their hand. Several zombies charged toward them. The person seemed completely unperturbed, remaining in place without making a move. It was as if they had been scared witless. A zombie rushed to within a few steps of him. In the next moment, it would have lunged forward to tear at his throat. Unexpectedly, the zombie suddenly spun around in the next moment, as if a living person had appeared elsewhere and the person right in front of it had ceased to exist. These zombies turned away inexplicably, failing to cause any harm to the person before them. The person lifted his head. It was none other than Lu Chao. As it turned out, after that day, Lu Chao had fled far away to another district. He had no interest in what became of Lu Wenjun and Zhang Bo. He simply wanted to escape as far as possible and live his own life. Lu Chao drove on, leaving the zombies he had previously attracted far behind. Yet, even so, whenever he stopped the car, new zombies would be drawn to him. He was forced to find a spot with fewer zombies and hurriedly abandon his car. Fortunately, he was lucky. He successfully ditched the car and entered a nearby residential building. Having no weapons on hand, he had to simply tear off a piece of a railing to use as one. Lu Chao headed up the stairs, hoping to find an empty room. Hopefully, I won't run into any zombies, Lu Chao thought to himself. Speak of the devil, the very next moment, Lu Chao turned a corner and ran right into trouble. A zombie appeared right before him. Damn it! Lu Chao cursed under his breath, swinging his stick with the force of a mountain-splitting blow. Having served as a bodyguard for a wealthy heir in the past, his physical fitness and strength were well above the level of an average person. Coupled with some factors that even Lu Chao found inexplicable. Lu Chao's strike was as if guided by divine intervention, killing the zombie instantly. He climbed a few more floors before slowly making his way toward the corridor. After all, in this apocalypse, resources could no longer be produced, and lower floors were undoubtedly the primary targets for scavenging. He didn't want his dwelling to be visited by strangers every day. In the apocalypse, the most terrifying thing is the human heart. Following the corridor, it didn't take long for Lu Chao to find an apartment with its door slightly ajar. Lu Chao braced himself and slowly pushed open the security door. At that moment, the sound of the hinges turning grated harshly in Lu Chao's ears. Simultaneously, the three zombies in the living room kept turning their heads, eerily fixing their gazes toward the doorway. When Lu Chao fully opened the door, he saw a man, a woman, and a child, a whole family of zombies, all turning to stare at him with an eerie gaze. This silence lasted only a moment. The next instant, the three zombies turned and lunged viciously toward Lu Chao. Fuck! Lu Chao cursed again. Leaning against the wall and gripping the door handle with both hands, he hurriedly tried to shut the door. But a zombie's hand had already wedged inside, and then several more hands clawed their way in. Lu Chao desperately tried to pull the door shut, but the gap only widened, until finally, he could even see the zombies' heads. Seeing that the zombies were about to bite his hand on the door handle, Lu Chao hardened his heart. He didn't even dare to retrieve the stick he had dropped on the floor, he simply let go and ran. The first zombie lunged at empty air and tumbled to the ground, but the ones behind followed closely. In the corridor, these zombies' running advantage was fully utilized. Although their running form was completely unscientific, by relying on the fully unleashed potential of their bodies, they could match the speed of a normal adult male sprinting 100 meters. And they could maintain this speed indefinitely. Lu Chao, having gained a few seconds head start, managed to reach the stairs. He knew the zombies were fast, and without a weapon in hand, the only way to survive was to pull a surprise move. He grabbed the railing and vaulted directly over it. He intended to emulate Jackie Chan's style of jumping over railings to speed up his descent. The first jump was successful, and Lu Chao felt a secret thrill, but when he grabbed the railing a second time, he couldn't tell if it was due to shoddy construction or years of neglect. The railing couldn't support Lu Chao's weight. He tumbled down the stairs, suffering a gash on his forehead, and his body was momentarily unable to move. More terrifying than the physical pain was the sound of the zombies continuing to descend the stairs. What do I do? What do I do? I'm going to die. In that instant, his entire life flashed before his eyes. No. Don't come near me. Lu Chao suddenly roared at the zombies charging toward him. Accompanied by a sudden, intense wave of spirit exhaustion, Lu Chao saw the 3 zombies freeze in their tracks. Though they continued to bare their fangs and brandish their claws, they couldn't take a single step forward. What was happening? Lu Chao's thoughts were in a whirl. Could it be that he could control zombies? Bite the other zombies, Lu Chao said tentatively. But a sudden, sharp pain shot through his mind, forcing him to cry out in agony once more. That intense pain was clearly telling him, "You can't do that yet." Lu Chao said weakly, "Jump down." And so, the 3 zombies walked toward the gap in the railing that Lu Chao had created. Thud. 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 The 3 zombies plummeted to the first floor, their fates uncertain. Lu Chao struggled to his feet and slowly made his way back upstairs. Returning to the apartment, he found no other zombies inside. Lu Chao rummaged around until he found the keys to the security door. Finally breathing a sigh of relief, he locked the door. Next, he searched the place again, found some medical supplies, applied them to his forehead, and finally put on a baseball cap to conceal the wound. Lu Chao looked at the wall, where a group photo of the 3 hung. The family of 3 in the picture looked warm and harmonious, a stark contrast to the vicious state they had been in just moments ago. Lu Chao simply took down the photo in silence and tossed it off the balcony. From now on, this place is mine. Lu Chao looked into the supermarket and immediately spotted a fresh zombie corpse inside. Had someone been here recently? Lu Chao, having worked as a bodyguard, keenly realized. He couldn't afford to be careless, so he followed the trail of blood from the corpse. He spotted footprints, 2 small and 1 large. The fresh tracks hadn't faded, and he eventually discovered that they led directly into the stairs of this very building. He hadn't expected to find survivors in this very building. Lu Chao took a look. The building wasn't that far from his own location. Lu Chao returned to the supermarket and began gathering the supplies he needed. Just after he had finished scavenging a haul of food, he suddenly noticed something lying on the ground. Binoculars? They sold these things here too? Lu Chao initially intended to ignore it, but then he remembered there were survivors in the building, so he picked it up after all. It might come in handy later. After all, those 2 small footprints surely belonged to women, and as for the larger one, Lu Chao felt that with his ability to control the movement of zombies, it wouldn't be a problem. And just like that, Lu Chao loaded up on supplies and returned home. Chapter 36 Speed-type Zombie. It was exactly 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and dusk was already showing on the horizon as Zhuan walked down the street, her expression calm. Zhuan no longer drove when she went out now. Because if she drove, she would always have to get out of the car to open and close the doors to kill zombies, which Zhuan found quite troublesome. Besides, with her speed of 301 points, 100 meters in 4 seconds was easy, so she wasn't slower than a normal vehicle, and it was very convenient for starting and killing zombies. The only inconvenience was that she couldn't carry much. But if she wanted to take something back, she could just find any car on the road, as there were abandoned and used vehicles everywhere. Will I encounter a new evolved zombie? Zhuan thought, casually swinging her blade to kill the nearest zombie. Ah! Zhuan suddenly heard a scream. A normal person wouldn't have been able to hear this scream, but Zhuan had 501 points of constitution, and her 5 senses were already far beyond that of an ordinary person. Upstairs? Zhuan frowned slightly. There's no time. Zhuan jumped with force, leaping directly onto the 3rd floor, her right fingers digging straight into the wall. Zhuan stopped steadily. The next moment, she exerted force with her right hand, throwing herself upward, and her left hand also dug into the wall of the 5th floor. Finally, Zhuan smashed through the glass on the 7th floor and entered the room. Upon entering the room, she saw a headless corpse in the center, its head still rolling around, bleeding as it went. On one side against the wall were 7 or 8 people, looking extremely terrified. On the other side against the wall was a strange zombie. This zombie didn't look like other zombies that stood on their 2 legs normally. instead, it was on all fours. It looked like an abnormal type. Zhu En's violent and unexpected entrance caused both the survivors and the zombie to pause in their tracks. Big sister? How did you get in? It's very dangerous here, run. A little girl who looked about 7 or 8 years old, just like Yang Yutao, shouted anxiously at Zhu En. Another man, who seemed to be the leader, swallowed his saliva. As an adult, he could feel the aura of confidence in Zhu En's bones. He knew that Zhu En was not ordinary, perhaps he was saved. He begged, "Can you help me?" Zhu En nodded, half-crouched next to the fallen head, used her hand to close his wide-open eyes, and said softly, "Sorry, I couldn't save everyone." The strange zombie on the other side also roared at Zhu En. It felt the contempt from this person in front of it, which made it very unhappy. Zhu En gripped the hilt of her blade with her right hand. "Whatever moves you have, use them quickly." The strange zombie pounced fiercely at Zhu En. With this pounce, Zhu En felt that the speed of this zombie was much faster than other zombies. It must be because it was on all fours, exerting force with all of them. But in Zhu En's eyes, this speed was still too slow. Zhu En gently grabbed one of the zombie's hands, controlled her strength, and threw it back to its original position. It was fast. If it were on flat ground, it could probably reach a speed of 100 meters in 8 seconds, which was enough to leave Bolt in the dust. If it were in a confined space like an indoor area, no amount of ordinary survivors would be enough for it to kill. To the survivors behind, they only saw the zombie like a puff of black smoke pouncing toward Zhu En, but the next moment, this black smoke was thrown back. Thrown back to its original spot, the zombie appeared even more furious, increased its speed a little, and pounced toward Zhu En again. Zhu En didn't even move, just crossed her arms in front of her chest. What's going on? Didn't she react in time? Zhu En's actions made the survivor surprised and afraid for a moment. Zhu En looked like she was quite capable of fighting, she better not die. Snap! Accompanied by a crisp sound, the zombie's teeth were shattered completely. Zhu En looked at her arm, which had no bite marks, and spoke slowly. Although its strength surpasses a normal zombie, it is still inferior compared to a strength-type zombie. It is a speed-enhanced type. Is its classification more like an assassin in a game? Is there anything else? Zhu En felt a bit bored. The zombie realized that the mysterious human female in front of it was not to be trifled with, so it turned around to leave, wanting to go out through the door. Don't even think about it. Zhu En directly cut off the zombie's head with one strike, took out the crystal from the head, and put it in her pocket. Killed evolved zombie speed-type zombie, evolution point +3. As expected, it's a speed-type zombie, Zhu En said silently in her heart. The survivors behind saw that the zombie was finally dead, and they were completely relieved. The leading man bowed 90 degrees directly to Zhu En. "Thank you for your help, Mississippi." The others also thanked Zhu En in unison. Zhu En waved her hand. "It was just a small effort. I heard the call for help from downstairs, and although I came up as quickly as I could, I was still a step late." At this moment, the little girl pointed at the leading man and said, "Big sister, it was because he pushed Uncle Zhang that Uncle Zhang died." Zhu En looked at the man in confusion. The man's face instantly darkened, and he turned to look at the others behind him. "It's just a child talking nonsense, it'll pass after some chatting and fussing." But the crowd behind remained silent. The man's face grew darker and darker. "He also withholds food and doesn't let us eat our fill." The others seemed to have gained courage and began to expose him. "Whenever something happens, he makes us go first." Oh, Zhu En became interested. Is what they are saying true? The man wanted to speak several times, but in the end, he didn't argue and muttered in a low voice, "Yes. I see." Zhu En didn't say much else. "The rest of you, do you want to go to my shelter? It's very safe there and has a reasonable order." Yes, we'll go." The others said in unison, as if they were afraid Zhu En would change her mind. "You. Why do you trust others so easily?" The man was suddenly a little annoyed. "What if she has ulterior motives toward you and is even worse than me?" Upon hearing this, Zhuan laughed softly. It seems you still don't understand the situation. Under the puzzled gazes of the crowd, Zhuan walked slowly to the wall and slowly raised her fist. She punched directly through the wall. I am very strong. If I wanted to do something, you would all be dead or captured by me by now. But since you are still fine now, it proves that I am safe. Everyone was stunned for a moment. What is happening to this world? First the zombie outbreak, then special zombies and humans who are excessively strong appeared. Does this world still have a place for ordinary people? Zhuan pulled out her arm. Now, those who are willing to go to the shelter with me, come over. Everyone walked over, leaving only the man alone. All right, then let's go. The man watched as Zhuan took her people and slowly left. He felt increasingly unwilling, but what could he do? Zhuan was so strong that he had no chance. However, he suddenly thought of something in his heart. He wanted to follow Zhuan to see where her shelter was located. Oh? The next moment, a cool hand patted him on the shoulder. Turning around, he saw Zhuan smiling at him. Are you planning something? The man shook his head frantically, hiding the fear in his heart. Lying is not good. Zhuan's smile faded. So far, I have seen the eyes of many people who wanted to harm me, and I've gotten used to it. Don't. In an instant, the man saw a headless body. That is? What's going on? Oh, that's his own body. Thinking of this, he also lost consciousness. Zhuan returned her blade to its sheath and jumped out directly through the broken window. Chapter 37, You Have a Classmate. Zhuan jumped down steadily from the 7th floor without causing itself any harm. At this moment, many survivors had just come down the stairs. Big sister? The little girl asked in surprise. Oh, Zhuan said, feeling a bit embarrassed, did I scare you? Little sister? The little girl shook her head. Looking at the little girl in front of her, Zhuan felt that Teacher Shen would have another task to take care of. Little sister, what is your name? The little girl replied in a childish voice, Hello, big sister, my name is Lindsay Jean. My name is Zhuan. Zhuan nodded, then said to everyone, just find 2 cars, and we will set off immediately. Everyone acted immediately and soon found 2 vehicles that could still run. Zhuan led the team and drove all the way to the Yunjing residential area. Unexpectedly, when passing by a hardware store, she encountered that familiar modified vehicle. Zhuan stopped the car and happened to see Zhou Yao walking out of the store carrying some parts in his hand. Zhou Yao, I didn't expect us to meet again so soon. Zhuan greeted him. Zhou Yao was startled when he saw Zhuan. He didn't expect to run into Zhuan even when coming to get some repair parts. Missin, are you bringing people back after scavenging for supplies? Zhuan shook her head. These are survivors I saved while clearing out zombies. I'm taking them back to my shelter in the residential area now. Zhou Yao looked through the car window at the people. They indeed exuded exhaustion, along with the fear and excitement of having survived a disaster. Zhou Yao did not skimp on his praise. Missin truly has a heart of gold. People like Missin are very rare these days. Zhuan laughed twice. This is the second group today. I urgently saved a batch of college students this morning. I'm quite happy that our residential area can absorb so much fresh blood. By the way, Zhuan's expression became serious. When I was at the university this morning, I discovered a special type of zombie with immense strength. I have temporarily named this kind of zombie a strength-type zombie. Furthermore, zombies are constantly evolving. Zhuan shook her head, the implication self-evident. Zhou Yao's expression also became serious. If there were very strong special-type zombies, then perhaps his modified vehicle would no longer be safe. However, he still wanted to live a free life for a while longer. By the way, Missin, Zhou Yao called out to Zhao Dian, and Zhao Dian took a set of radio equipment out of the car. The internet is unusable now, so we can use radios to communicate. Also, if Missin encounters other communications, you can go to rescue them. Zhuan did not decline and accepted it directly. Then take care. Remember to call me if anything happens. Zhuan brought everyone back to the Yunjing residential area shelter and handed them over to Hao Jianwei to arrange. Specifically, Zhuan led Lin Zijin to find teacher Shen. Come, this is your new teacher, Zijin. Yang Yutao and Lin Zijin looked at each other in dismay. What is going on? We still have to go to school in this situation? Who are you asking? Do I look like I know? At night, Zhuan opened her panel and began allocating points. Constitution, 800, limit, spirit, 800, limit, agility, 420, alienated, unlocked technique, crimson blood manipulation technique, 69 out of 100, proficient, techniques to be unlocked, none, evolution point, 9. She had been busy running around all day and killed quite a few zombies. She estimated that if she killed more for another day tomorrow, her constitution and spirit would be able to break through the 1000 threshold. She wondered if a new technique would be unlocked by then. The current development of the crimson blood manipulation technique alone was enough to amaze her. It was hard to imagine how strong the techniques provided in the middle and late stages of the system would be. A new day began. Inside Yunzhou City, a solemn motorcade drove silently along the quiet and chaotic roads. These vehicles all had a uniform camouflage paint job, looking stern and solemn. It was clearly an armed force with a military background. Currently, the person in charge of this military armed group was Captain Zhou Jiang. He was in the lead vehicle, and sitting in the driver's seat was Xia Qing, who was incredibly strong, proficient with firearms, and recognized by their base as the king of soldiers. They had fled from a military base. When the outbreak occurred, not many people were training, most of the soldiers mutated directly. Without command, they had paid a painful price to clear out the base. After leaving the base, they had been trying to communicate with the outside world, but received no response for a long time. Until they successfully established communication with Tianhai Base, Zhou Jiang immediately decided to head to Tianhai Base. Of course, they were still in Yunzhou City because they had left in a hurry, so they stayed to resupply for a day, which delayed them for some time. Zhou Jiang looked at the messy road surface, where corpses could be seen from time to time. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. White bones pile up like hills. What sin did the common people commit? He only hoped that the apocalypse would end soon. He believed in the power of the government and the power of the army, although their current armament only consisted of some light weapons and some RPGs. Their base originally had tanks and the like, but the fire control systems and radars were all broken, and all their maintenance personnel had been killed in action. Bringing his thoughts back to the present, Zhou Jiang watched as those zombies futilely crashed into his car and were then crushed into mincemeat under the wheels. So what? These things of his were enough to slaughter zombies. Thinking this, Zhou Jiang suddenly saw two rather special zombies in the distance ahead. Both zombies were over 2 meters tall and looked quite shocking. Xia Qing sensitively stopped the car. As a king of soldiers, he could sense dangers that ordinary people could not. These two zombies naturally noticed their massive motorcade, and at the same time, other normal zombies also rushed over. Bang, bang, bang. Accompanied by the continuous sound of gunfire, most of the normal zombies were cleared away and collapsed to the ground, dead or alive unknown. One giant zombie had many blood holes shot into its body, but it was clearly not fatal, only making it angrier as it rushed rapidly toward the vehicle where Zhou Jiang was. As for the other giant zombie, it left the soldiers dumbfounded. This? Can someone really resist bullets? This zombie only had dents of various sizes left on its body. The bullets actually didn't penetrate it? At the same time, it was protecting a normal-sized zombie behind it. This zombie was obviously very angry as well, but its running speed was far less than that of the other giant zombie. Xia Qing frowned and fired a full burst directly at the zombie's head. The rapid-fire bullets directly penetrated the zombie's head, and this giant zombie fell heavily to the ground, kicking up a cloud of dust. Xia Qing pulled out an RPG from the back, intending to fire one directly at the other strange zombie. Try this. The zombie that could resist bullets clearly sensed the danger, grabbed the zombie it was protecting behind it, and threw it at Xia Qing's vehicle. Boom! The rocket hit the thrown zombie directly. This poor zombie was blown to pieces, and blood splattered all over the windshield. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Suddenly, a strange sound rang in Zhou Jiang's ears. How is this possible? Xia Qing saw that the glass was being slowly corroded by this blood. What is this? This blood is poisonous. Right now, that strange zombie was still constantly approaching, and bullets seemed to have no effect on it. It seemed to be able to use its body to slowly absorb the kinetic energy of the bullets to render them ineffective. Although it was absurd, this was the conclusion Xia Qing reached based on his own experience. Oh? A voice full of surprise and joy rang out, there are so many people here. Xia Qing looked up and saw only a young woman with a high ponytail, wearing a plain white short-sleeved shirt and black trousers, holding a tang dao in her hand. She was looking at the situation in front of her with great interest and muttering to herself. This? Could it be another new type of zombie? Chapter 38, you can tell from her stance that she is incredibly strong. This? Could it be another new type of zombie? Although Zhu En's voice was not loud, it had strong penetrating power and clearly reached Xia Qing's ears. Hey! It's dangerous here. Get out of here, shouted Zhou Jiang from the side. No, Xia Qing shook his head, you can tell from her stance that she is incredibly strong. Cease fire first. Xia Qing did this solely based on his own experience. He had fought many opponents he could not possibly defeat, they were powerful and confident, and this confidence, born from their strength, permeated their lives and actions. Among them, the feeling Zhuan gave him was several orders of magnitude stronger than anyone he had encountered before. The soldiers gradually stopped firing, fearing they might accidentally hit Zhuan. Listening to the gunfire die down, Zhuan nodded slightly and walked slowly toward that zombie. Compared to the soldiers encased in their metal boxes, Zhuan, who was directly exposed, was clearly more interesting to the zombie. The zombie quickly approached Zhuan and slammed its left arm heavily toward her. Any ordinary person would be severely injured if hit by that. But Zhuan was not an ordinary person. This powerful, heavy blow was stopped easily by Zhuan, as if a pause button had been pressed. Alright, Zhuan said easily, my turn. After speaking, she controlled her strength and punched the zombie. She had to control her strength, otherwise she was afraid she would blow the zombie into a cloud of blood mist. Even so, the zombie was still knocked back more than 3 meters. Xia Qing's pupils constricted, the zombie's body, which even bullets could not penetrate, had actually been knocked flying by a single punch from this mysterious woman. Furthermore, it seemed this woman had not even used her full strength. So that's how it is. Zhuan savored the feeling she had just experienced. It felt like her fist had hit cotton, extending the contact time, so the averaged impact damage wasn't as strong. A clever evolutionary path. But was that all? The zombie struggled to get up and charged at Zhuan again. It seemed that was all there was to it. Zhuan swung her blade lightly and severed the zombie's head. Killed evolved zombie defense type, evolution point +3. Just as Zhuan was about to smash the zombie's brain to retrieve the crystal, she hesitated, or rather, she thought of a new method. Since the zombie's brain was filled with various blood and bodily fluids, why couldn't she manipulate them to indirectly retrieve the crystal? Zhuan's light, decapitating strike was already enough to shock Xia Qing and the soldiers, but the next scene made them doubt the reality of this world. Zhuan waved her left hand gently, and the zombie's head exploded completely. A white crystal, half wrapped in a small clump of blood, slowly floated into Zhuan's hand. Afterward, the blood scattered, and the crystal lost its support and landed steadily in Zhuan's hand. This? Zhou Jiang was stunned. Xia Qing, hurry, slap me. Military orders are like mountains. Xia Qing immediately slapped the captain. Damn, that hurts, it's real. What is going on here? Is spiritual energy starting to recover now? Yeah. Great, I'm going to become a great emperor, some Chinibu soldier started daydreaming. Zhuan looked at the crystal in her hand and couldn't help but sigh. A simple spell like the Crimson Blood manipulation technique could have such miraculous effects when developed to the later stages. Zhuan opened her panel. Sure enough, the proficiency of the Crimson Blood manipulation technique had reached 72, and the proficiency level had reached mastery. Additionally, she discovered something that was a bit of a bug. That was, air itself is also a fluid. She could fully manipulate the air. When used for attacks, it could have the effect of an air gun, and with stable manipulation, she could lift objects with air. These applications were already like miracles. Of course, the foundation of these applications was Zhu and Spirit attribute. Spirit is the core of spells. While she was still lost in thought, Zhou Jiang and Xia Qing had already arrived in front of Zhuan. "Hello, I am Captain Zhou Jiang." Zhou Jiang extended his hand. "I am currently the leader of these soldiers." "Oh," Zhuan snapped back to reality. "Hello, my name is Zhuan, and I am a survivor from Yunzhou City." "Where are you going? May I ask what the situation with the military is?" "We have been waiting for the military's rescue." Hearing Zhuan's words, both Zhou Jiang and Xia Qing fell into silence for a moment. The military's situation is not optimistic. Zhuan sighed. As expected, the military's situation was as she had anticipated. After all, with such a major event, the fact that the military had taken no action until now spoke for itself. "Where are you heading?" Zhuan asked. The two exchanged glances, and finally, Zhou Jiang replied, "We are heading to a certain base. It still possesses relatively complete scientific research capabilities and combat functions, and it is one of the safest places currently." Scientific research capabilities? Zhuan thought of these strange evolved zombies and crystals. Recently, these specially evolved zombies have been appearing quite frequently. "I personally don't have any research capabilities, so I can only leave it to you." Zhuan waved her hand again, and the crystals from the other two zombies also appeared in her hand. "Take these 3 crystals and the bodies, perhaps you will discover something." Zhou Jiang did not refuse. He called over a soldier and conveyed some orders. Next, soldiers quickly moved the bodies of the strength-type zombie and the defense-type zombie onto the vehicle. However, they were stumped by the zombie that had been blown apart by the rocket. The blood of this zombie was clearly extremely corrosive, and they currently had no equipment for moving it. Zhuan stepped forward to inspect it and found that the bulletproof glass on the vehicle and the concrete ground were severely corroded. This zombie, perhaps it should be called a corrosive-type zombie? Because she hadn't killed it herself, Zhuan didn't know the specific designation. She remembered that Tang Yun had the ability to identify zombie information. Forget it. In the future, in Yunzhou City, there would be plenty of opportunities to see them. Thinking this, Zhuan directly used the Crimson Blood manipulation technique to manipulate the air, lifting the zombie's broken corpse onto the vehicle. "Missin? Are the people outside all like Missin?" Xia Qing suddenly stumbled for words. Magical?" Zhuan smiled and shook her head. "No, I am a special case. But I can tell you that among humans, evolutions similar to these zombies have also appeared. Some have become incredibly strong, some can control objects in mid-air. The extent of their ingenuity is something even I don't know." Xia Qing was completely stunned. Human evolution made him, a former king of soldiers, start to break into a cold sweat. At this moment, a soldier holding a satellite phone handed it to Zhu, and Zhou Jiang said, "Missin, there is a number on it. If you have any new discoveries, you can contact us through this at any time." Zhuan nodded and accepted the satellite phone. "Missin, we'll be going now." Zhou Jiang nodded in acknowledgement. "Bye-bye. Maybe we will meet again in the future." "Haha, looking forward to that day." Zhuan smiled and waved, watching the vehicles drive away and the dust they kicked up. The dust finally settled, and the city returned to silence. Zhuan turned and looked at the chaotic and disorderly street. "Come on, time to start work. It would be best to grind both constitution and spirit to over 1,000 today. Maybe something good will happen." Chapter 39 Limitless. Zhuan walked alone on the street. The muggy summer wind and the silent city couldn't help but make one feel a bit irritable. However, looking closely, Zhuan's feet were not touching the ground, instead, she was floating 3 to 4 centimeters above it. Behind her floated a drawn tang sword. Zhuan was currently diligently grinding to level up her proficiency. In front of her were scattered a dozen or so zombies. For an ordinary person, this would be a deadly predicament, but for Zhuan. Zhuan waved her hands, and those dozen zombies were held in place as if controlled by a pair of invisible hands, unable to move. Bang, bang, bang. Accompanied by a series of sounds similar to gunfire. The heads of these zombies exploded one after another. Zhuan, you've really made something of yourself now, you've even started cultivating immortality. Zhuan mocked herself, then opened the system panel. The points should be enough now. Constitution, 1000, limit, Spirit, 1000, limit, Agility, 520, limit, Unlocked Cursed Technique, Crimson Blood Manipulation Technique, 75/100, Proficient, Cursed Technique to unlock, Reverse Cursed Technique? 0/100, Limitless? 0/100, Evolution Point, 0. Sure enough, she had unlocked new cursed techniques. Zhuan nodded slightly and clicked on the question marks. Reverse Cursed Technique, Healing. Limitless, the specified object can never reach a target object. The introduction to the Reverse Cursed Technique was unexpectedly concise and clear. As for this Limitless, Zhuan could feel that it was a cursed technique that could play many word games. At the same time, the effect of this cursed technique reminded her of Zeno's tortoise. Zeno's tortoise states that an athlete running 10 times faster than a tortoise races it, with the tortoise starting 100 meters ahead. After the starting gun, when the athlete runs the 100 meters, the tortoise has run another 10 meters, when the athlete runs those 10 meters, the tortoise has run another meter. Repeating this cycle, the athlete can never catch up to the tortoise. Even though the athlete's speed is 10 times that of the tortoise, the counterintuitive situation of the athlete never catching up occurs, which is why people call it Zeno's tortoise paradox. Later, what killed this paradox was the creation of calculus. Infinite series converge to a specific number rather than diverging to infinity, so the athlete will eventually overtake the tortoise. However, in Zhuan's view, this paradox of Zeno is more like a word game, or a piece of tautological literature. What it describes is, before the athlete catches up to the tortoise, he can never catch up to the tortoise. Suppose the athlete can catch up to the tortoise after 10 seconds. Zeno's description limits time to a repeating decimal like 9.8888. In this number, no matter how you cycle it, you will never reach 10, which is the result of achieving the catch-up. Zhuan guessed that this cursed technique should also be able to produce the effect of making a specified object never reach a target object. For example, if you set the target object as yourself, then some dangerous attacks would simply be unable to hit you. If you set it on someone else, it would be an invincible turtle shell. But what the specific effect is will have to wait until she learns it. Learning these two cursed techniques requires 200 evolution points. Zhuan looked up at the sky, twilight was already appearing on the horizon. No choice, then I'll just have to work a little overtime, Zhuan muttered to herself. At this moment, Zhuan suddenly caught sight of a female survivor hiding in a nearby shop, watching her. Clearly, all of her actions just now had been seen by her. Yo, hello, Zhuan said with a smile, greeting her. Seeing that Zhuan had discovered her, a drop of cold sweat ran down Wang Hong's face, and her legs felt like they were filled with lead, unable to move. Zhuan's godlike performance just now had already caused Wang Hong's worldview to collapse. As an ordinary survivor, she had to be prepared to die outside every time she left home, and if she died, her paralyzed husband at home would also die. But Zhuan could walk on the streets of the apocalypse as if no one else were around. Generally speaking, in movies and TV shows, such powerful people might have some kind of mental illness, like catching survivors to torture and kill for fun. Just as Wang Hong was letting her imagination run wild, Zhuan had already come forward. Wang Hong only then realized that Zhuan was actually floating. Ghost! Wang Hong exclaimed, but suddenly seeming to realize something, she covered her mouth. Sorry. Zhuan smiled, her eyes gentle. It's okay, you can trust me, I'm a good person. Do you have any other family members? If you do, you can come together to the shelter I established. Wang Hong swallowed hard, her mind was racing. Finally, she realized she had no choice. Zhu En's combat power was too high, even if she didn't want to, she could be forced to agree. If she left, her husband sitting in a wheelchair at home would starve to death. My husband is at home, but he is paralyzed, Wang Hong said cautiously. After all, a paralyzed person was considered a burden even before the apocalypse. There are no devoted kin by a long-term sickbed. Especially in the apocalypse, would a shelter really be willing to accept such a person? But Zhu En's next answer stunned Wang Hong. As long as they are good people who are kind-hearted and live optimistically, my shelter is willing to accept them. Surviving humans are already very rare, we should help each other and get through these difficulties together. Wang Hong's eyes were already a bit moist, and she muttered, my home is in this building, I'll take you there. A few minutes later, Wang Hong led Zhuan to a door. While Wang Hong was taking out her keys to open the door, Zhuan took the opportunity to peer inside with her X-ray vision. With Zhu En's current 1,000 points in spirit, anti-theft doors or ordinary walls could no longer block her investigation. It could even be said that even if Zhu En closed her eyes, she could see through her own eyelids. She just rarely did so because there were few scenarios to apply it. Zhu En saw that there was indeed a male survivor sitting in a wheelchair in the living room, looking obviously anxious. Wang Jiqing was calculating the time his wife had been out. It had far exceeded the time she usually spent. Could it be that she encountered some accident? Wang Jiqing clenched his fists. He didn't want his wife to have an accident, but now, he could only wait anxiously. Suddenly, the door opened. Wang Jiqing looked up happily, but besides seeing his familiar wife's figure, he also saw the figure of a young woman. Wang Jiqing's eyes darted toward his wife. Right, I haven't introduced myself yet. My name is Zhu En, and I am the manager of the Yunjing Residential Area Shelter. Hello. Wang Hong said, my name is Wang Hong, and this is my husband Wang Jiqing. Come to think of it, it's quite a coincidence, we share the same surname. A bunch of question marks rose on Wang Jiqing's face. Wang Hong said, Miss En is here to save us and take us back to the shelter, honey, don't worry. Zhu En smiled and nodded, saying, Mr. Wang, rest assured, you will be safe. Because. Zhu En lifted her right hand slightly, and Wang Jiqing only felt his body becoming increasingly light. Wang Jiqing looked down and discovered that he was actually flying, floating in the air. What is this? What's going on? What happened? Wang Jiqing's mind felt as if it had been struck by lightning, and for a moment, he couldn't react. I am very strong. After a long time, Wang Jiqing finally came back to his senses and said blankly, okay, then Miss En, let's go. Zhu En nodded, we will go downstairs like this, just now was just a little rehearsal. Don't worry, nothing will go wrong. Wang Hong had already started packing up various odds and ends on the side. After a while, Wang Hong was packed, and the three of them set off. Wang Hong and Zhu En were seen walking properly on the stairs, while Wang Jiqing was gripping the armrests of his wheelchair, the entire wheelchair floating in the air like a balloon hanging from Zhu En's hand, moving along with her. After going downstairs, Zhu En soon found a car, stuffed the two of them inside, and Zhu En sat in the driver's seat. Are we going back to the shelter now? Wang Jiqing asked tentatively. No, Zhu En laughed heartily, I'll have to ask the two of you to wait a moment. I'm working overtime today. Chapter 40, Unlocking New Cursed Techniques. Today I'm working overtime. Zhu En smiled brightly, but it left Wang Hong and Wang Jiqing confused. It was the apocalypse now, so why was someone still working? Whose boss was so ruthless, and who could possibly exploit a ruthless person like Zhu En? However, they quickly understood what Zhu En meant by overtime. They saw Juan calmly park the car in a densely populated area of zombies and casually honk the horn. Soon, nearby zombies were attracted. Some zombies behind glass windows even smashed through the glass, jumped down from high floors, and crashed heavily onto the ground. Over 200 zombies rushed toward Juan's vehicle from all directions. It looked like the car was a tiny boat in a storm, seemingly about to be swallowed by the angry waves. But the next moment, the heads of the circle of zombies closest to the car exploded, splashing a large amount of red and white, and then these blood droplets seemed to have a life of their own, rushing directly toward the heads of the zombies behind them. The heads of those zombies were also blasted apart. These rushing zombies fell like dominoes until, finally, only 2 zombies that looked different remained on the scene. Wang Jiqing's mind went blank, as if stared at by something terrifying. His brain stopped thinking, and only infinite fear and lingering dread remained in his heart. Who could have imagined that Juan, who had just smiled kindly at them, could possess such strength? 2 left. One is speed type, the other is? It looks like a normal zombie. Juan, acting as if she had done something very mundane, slowly probed with her spirit. There is clearly a white crystal inside it too. Juan tilted her head and said to Wang Hong, I'm going down for a moment, wait a bit. Wang Hong nodded repeatedly. Juan got out of the car and came to the 2 zombies. These 2 zombies obviously didn't understand what had happened. Where are my 200 zombie brothers? Where did they go? Leader of the pack. The speed-type zombie saw Juan and immediately hissed at her. How rude, Juan frowned. The next moment, the zombie floated up. Then, a white crystal broke through the constraints of its skull and floated into Juan's hand. The other ordinary-looking zombie sensed something was wrong and wanted to escape, but the next moment, its head shattered instantly. Killed evolved type, toxin-type zombie, evolution point +3. Feeling the slight nourishment on the blade and the feeling of being slightly corroded. Juan sighed, is my naming not appropriate? Juan returned to the car, alright, overtime is over. This time we are really going back. The sky was already half dark, night was approaching, and the stars were gradually appearing in the sky. Hao Jianwei, Tang Yun, and Qin Yuan were waiting at the entrance of the shelter. Why isn't manager back today? Hao Jianwei said. Song Xiaoqian replied, maybe sister and found new survivors. Indeed, the residential area has been receiving survivors that Juan pulls back from outside recently, Tang Yun echoed. Before long, the sound of a car engine reached everyone's ears. Qin Yuan silently opened the gate of the residential area. Juan drove in, rolled down the window, and sounded a bit surprised, I didn't expect you all to be waiting for me. Juan slowly parked the car and called over Hao Jianwei, Deputy Manager Hao, there are 2 new survivors. I'll leave them for you to arrange. Oh, and this? Juan took out the satellite phone from her waist. I met some military people today, but the situation is not optimistic. The military is struggling to even take care of themselves. Everyone wasn't very surprised, after all, it was within expectations. Juan didn't say much about the crystals. The crystals Juan obtained were split, she would use her blade to cut them in half, keeping half for herself. She felt that the crystals should be for awakened ones to consume. She had eaten one herself, but didn't feel anything. But after all, her body couldn't be measured by common sense, and she couldn't use the awakened ones in the residential area for experiments. Juan could only save up some crystals and wait until she understood their use later. After all, she believed that no one's crystal reserves could exceed hers. By the way, I encountered a new type of zombie today. The zombies outside are becoming more and more powerful. Tang Yin couldn't help but laugh, what, this tone of reporting work? Juan was taken aback and couldn't help but laugh too, yeah, perhaps killing zombies is my job. Juan smiled slightly and promised somewhat flippantly, let's set a small goal first, kill all the zombies in Yinzhou City and make Yinzhou City a city without zombies. Song Xiaoqian was stunned for a moment, if it's sister and, I believe it can be done. Fang Yinzhou excitedly gibbered, save the world. girl. Qin Yuan smiled silently. Zhuan waved her hand, you go ahead, I still have things to do. After saying that, she went to park the car. On the other side, Wang Hong pushed Wang Jiqing and followed behind Hao Jianwei. Following Hao Jianwei, the two slowly saw the full picture of the Yunjing residential area. Everyone's face was filled with confidence in life and yearning for tomorrow. It was hard to imagine that this was the apocalypse. Following Hao Jianwei, the two received the keys to their room. Because of Wang Jiqing's physical problems, Hao Jianwei specially arranged for them to be on the first floor. At the same time, the two were also told about some basic rules of the Yunjing residential area. Zhuan, she wants to build a paradise, the two became more convinced. At this moment, Zhuan suddenly appeared behind Hao Jianwei. Deputy Manager Hao, let's hold a meeting in our residential area tomorrow noon. Hao Jianwei was not startled by Zhuan's sudden appearance, he was already used to Zhuan's elusive nature. A meeting? Yes, everyone must be present this time, Zhuan nodded. Recently, there are more and more survivors in our residential area. I think our management organization should be formed quickly, otherwise it will be hard to manage later. Hao Jianwei replied, okay, I will notify everyone. Only then did Zhuan notice Wang Hong and Wang Jiqing, and said with a smile, I forgot to say just now, welcome to join our Yunjing residential area shelter, and embrace a new life. The two were honored and nodded repeatedly. After Zhuan left, Wang Hong looked in the direction Zhuan left and sighed, Manager N is the kindest person I have ever seen in my life. Hao Jianwei smiled, indeed. Diligently killing zombies every day, providing supplies and safety for everyone in the residential area, not arrogant, not bullying the weak, treating everyone equally. At the same time, she is decisive in killing people who should be killed, people who are a threat to the residential area, she will not let any of them go. In the apocalypse, how difficult it is to maintain these qualities. In the apocalypse, how lucky it is to meet such a leader. As a survivor in the residential area, no eulogy for Zhuan would be too much. On the other side, Zhuan returned to her home and opened the system panel. Constitution, 1000, limit. Spirit, 1000, limit. Agility, 520, limit. Unlocked Cursed Technique, Crimson Blood Manipulation Technique, 76/100, proficient. To be unlocked Cursed Technique, Reverse Cursed Technique, 243/100. Limitless, 243/100. Evolution Point, 243. Zhuan did not hesitate and clicked on the Cursed Technique. Confirm spending 100 evolution points to learn Reverse Curse Technique? Confirm, cancel. Confirm spending 100 evolution points to learn Limitless? Confirm, cancel. Confirm everything. Zhuan sat on the bed, feeling the long-lost heat spreading slowly over her head, and new knowledge was continuously entering her mind. Chapter 41, Oh no, I've become Medusa. After several minutes passed, Zhuan slowly opened her eyes. By this time, they had transformed into a captivating, bewitching blue, dazzling and magnificent. Is this it? Limitless? Zhuan lightly raised her left hand, her palm was empty, holding nothing at all. Zhuan casually picked up a pair of scissors, placed them on her palm, and abruptly let go. The scissors began to fall due to gravity, seemingly about to pierce Zhuan's palm. But the next moment, the speed of the scissors began to slow down. At the same time, Zhuan felt a tiny, very subtle drain on her spirit and a sense of fatigue. Using Limitless required extremely precise, atomic-level control. Fortunately, the system held everything together, granting her the effects of the six eyes briefly whenever she used Limitless. The speed of the scissors finally approached zero. From a macroscopic perspective, it was completely stationary, hovering above Zhuan's palm. Impressive, Zhuan sighed, this move can resist almost any physical attack. But it consumes my spirit power. In other words, this move isn't invincible. If I face an attack with too high an energy level, my defense will be broken. Zhuan picked up the scissors again and threw them at the wall opposite her. The result was the same, the scissors slowed down and became fixed in place. Then, Zhuan withdrew the limitless she had applied, and the scissors dropped instantly. I think I get it now, Zhuan thought to herself, my spirit power is cancelling out the object's kinetic energy. To an outside observer, the scissors are almost stationary. However, if you observe from the perspective of the scissors themselves, they are still moving at their original speed, it's just that the duration of their movement has been infinitely stretched. If the limitless is withdrawn, the process of the scissors movement will end rapidly, and the original speed will return to the near-zero speed observed macroscopically. The phenomenon is that if someone were to shoot at Zhuan while she has limitless activated, the bullet would stop just before hitting her. When Zhuan withdraws the limitless, the bullet would simply fall to the ground in freefall. Having figured out the ins and outs, Zhuan felt pleased. However, Zhuan could currently only maintain limitless on a part of her body. In short, the spirit attribute is the core of cursed technique. Next, Zhuan secretly activated the next cursed technique, reverse cursed technique. She could feel her mental fatigue dissipating rapidly, like spring rain nourishing the earth. Mental bliss, Zhuan couldn't help but moan. By comparison, reverse cursed technique was quite simple, a pure healing skill. Moreover, reverse cursed technique could also heal mental fatigue. Zhuan could practice limitless for a while, then use reverse cursed technique to heal herself, continuously cycling to grind the proficiency of both cursed techniques. Zhuan reached over and grabbed the tang sword nearby, cutting her finger. Embarrassingly, the tang sword didn't even cut Zhuan's finger. Zhuan's physical strength was no longer what it used to be. Even if a pack of evolved zombies chased after Zhuan to gnaw on her, they probably wouldn't even be able to bite off the dead skin on her hands. Although this tang sword had chopped up a few evolved zombie crystals, its durability was still insufficient. With no other choice, Zhuan had to bite her own finger to break the skin. She then used reverse cursed technique to heal the small wound. The wound was clean and scarless, like the delicate skin of a newborn. Perhaps, when reverse cursed technique reached a very high level of proficiency, it might even be able to bring the dead back to life or regrow flesh and bones. Thinking of this, Zhuan walked to the bathroom. By chance, Zhuan looked into the bathroom mirror and saw her own bewitching blue pupils. Zhuan suddenly froze. Everything before her eyes turned into white light, as if she had transformed into a streak of extremely fast light. All that appeared in her mind was infinitely complex information and a destination that could never be reached. Ah? The blue in Zhuan's eyes suddenly dissipated, and Zhuan gasped heavily, as if she had just escaped death. The cursed technique had just undergone an emergency shutdown because her train of thought had been inexplicably interrupted, causing her to fail to maintain the limitless state. Zhuan muttered to herself, could it be? Did I accidentally apply limitless to myself? There was no time to think. Zhuan immediately left her home and knocked on the door of Song Xiaoqian, who lived on the same floor. Xiaoqian, are you there? I need to talk to you about something. Okay, sister-in, give me a moment. Song Xiaoqian's voice was clearly filled with uncontrollable surprise. After all, Zhuan had been acting like a corporate slave lately, exhausting all her energy at work and not wanting to deal with anyone when she got home. This was the first time she had come out to find someone at night. Soon, Song Xiaoqian opened the door. What's the matter, sister-in? Zhuan thought for a moment. Xiaoqian, I just need you to help me with a small experiment. There is a slight risk, so please be careful. Song Xiaoqian was a bit confused, but she agreed nonetheless. Okay, Xiaoqian, look into my eyes. As she spoke, Zhuan activated a very low level of limitless, and her eyes turned a bewitching light blue. As soon as Song Xiaoqian looked, she instantly fell into it, trapped in the same experience as Zhuan. From Zhuan's perspective, Song Xiaoqian was directly immobilized and couldn't make even the slightest movement. Seeing this, Zhuan immediately deactivated the limitless. Song Xiaoqian let out a huge breath and said, panting, sister-in, what was that just now? Zhuan just patted Song Xiaoqian's head and activated the reverse curse technique. Song Xiaoqian felt the overclocking damage to her brain instantly healed. Her whole body felt as comfortable as if she were soaking in a hot spring, leaving her feeling lazy and relaxed. Just a small experiment, Xiaoqian. What did it feel like just now? Song Xiaoqian thought about her wording and spoke slowly. It felt like those weird dreams I had when I had a fever as a child, infinitely fractal Mandelbrot sets, infinitely small when infinitely large, and infinitely rough when infinitely detailed. My brain was running very fast. I felt like my processing power had reached a non-human level. Zhuan just listened quietly, nodding as she heard. This feeling was very similar to what she had experienced just moments ago. Now Zhuan generally understood. Limitless is about choosing that a certain object cannot approach another object, but the eyes are the core of the limitless curse technique. When a conscious being looks into her eyes, their consciousness is automatically drawn into the scope of the limitless. That is to say, their gaze can never actually reach her eyes, and they themselves fall into the speed she experienced just now. Their brain starts to overclock frantically, processing this infinite information. Because the brain is too busy to manage the body, it enters a state of immobilization. So this is limitless? The strong are full of surprises everywhere. I didn't expect to develop an additional benefit like an immobilization technique on the first day. It's fine, it's already over. Zhuan patted Song Xiaoqian's back. I'm leaving now. Thanks for your help. Okay, good night, sisterin, Song Xiaoqian said hurriedly. Zhuan really was becoming more and more non-human. It felt like her evolution speed was far ahead of the rest of humanity. Watching Zhu En's retreating figure, Song Xiaoqian sighed. Wait a second? Why did it seem like Sister N's feet weren't touching the ground? Scared senseless by the big boss. On the other side, Zhuan returned to her room. This is troublesome. I definitely have to grind the proficiency of limitless, but just by being seen by ordinary people, these eyes can fry their brains. Zhuan pressed her temples weakly. With no other choice, Zhuan closed her eyes. With Zhu and spirit power, she could still see things even with her eyes closed. At the same time, the places she could see were all places her spirit power could influence and apply cursed technique to. This must be by design. Zhuan closed her eyes, feeling this new vision. Whatever, it actually seems pretty cool. Zhuan rummaged through her wardrobe and finally found a piece of white cloth, which she used to cover her eyes. Zhuan looked in the mirror. This time, she didn't fall into her own limitless. Zhuan began to re-examine her appearance. Her overall appearance was above average, with 2 strands of bangs left on her forehead and a high ponytail tied at the back of her head. With a white cloth covering her eyes, she appeared even more reserved and mysterious. She was wearing a pure white casual short-sleeved shirt, with pure black long pants on the lower half. The whole person looked serene and mysterious, elegantly beautiful, and couldn't help but make people's imaginations run wild. Not bad at all, Zhuan clicked her tongue, quite satisfied with her outfit. Chapter 42, My Eyes Are Broken. At noon the next day, inside Yunjing residential area. Everyone sat in a circle. The residential area's total population was nearly 70, and there were many familiar faces among them. Such as the original residents of the residential area, nightclub worker, locksmith, retired elder, Hao Jianwei, Yang Lihua, Yang Yutao, Feng Bei, Ma Ning, and Du Qianqiu. Those who joined from the school, Qin Yuan, Tang Yun, Tang Yu, Song Xiaoqian, Feng Wenzhou, and teacher Shen, as well as other survivors, Lin Zijin, Wang Hong, and Wang Jiqing. Before they knew it, this residential area already had so many people. Hao Jianwei sat near the center, and everyone was waiting for Zhu En's arrival. A few minutes later, Zhuan appeared before everyone. It wasn't that Zhuan was trying to be difficult, she just hadn't expected everyone to be so enthusiastic and arrive ahead of time, which made her, someone who had gone out on time that morning to work and kill zombies, look like she was the one who wasn't punctual. Hello, everyone, Zhuan said lightly. Sisterin? Your eyes? Song Xiaoqian asked worriedly upon seeing the white cloth covering Zhu An's eyes. Only then did everyone notice the abnormality with Zhu An's eyes. What happened to Manager An's eyes? After all, Zhu An managed this shelter, and her safety was tied to the survival of this shelter. You mean this? Zhu An smiled brightly. It was impossible for such a major change in appearance to go unnoticed. My eyes are having a little trouble, but don't worry, everyone, I can still see things normally. Zhu An raised her right hand and began pointing at people one by one, counting them off. Tang Yun, Hao Jianwei, Song Xiaoqian. Tang Yu pressed down on Zhu An's hand. Sister An, that's enough, that's enough. Although Zhu An was always doing strange things, it was evident to everyone that she was becoming stronger and stronger. Covering her eyes or whatever else was just a minor detail. Feng Wenzhou thought to himself, Zhu An is so beautiful, she's becoming more and more like a superpower user. It's a pity I still don't have any superpowers. Recalling her experience last night, Song Xiaoqian roughly understood what was going on, but she didn't say anything more. Zhu An nodded and sat in the center seat. Let's officially begin. Regarding this meeting, the first item is that I personally want to establish the management organization for the residential area. Although we only have about 70 people now, it is foreseeable that there will be more and more survivors in our residential area in the future. Everyone nodded as they listened to Zhu An. My personal idea is to establish a few groups based on the functions needed for the residential area to operate, set up the general framework, and then slowly modify it later. Now, everyone can express their own opinions. I'll give you 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, anyone with ideas can speak directly. After finishing, Zhu An leaned back quietly in her chair and said no more. Everyone began to discuss with each other. At this moment, the advantages of those who had studied history or administrative-related majors became apparent, as they spoke with great eloquence and at length. 5 minutes passed quickly, and after a long period of discussion and negotiation, the residential area was tentatively planned into the following groups. 1. Armed group. The armed group is divided into the patrol team and the security team. The patrol team is responsible for ensuring internal safety, while the security team is responsible for ensuring safety when the team goes out. 2. Logistics group. The logistics group is responsible for coordinating and distributing the supplies of the shelter. 3. Personnel group, handles personnel adjustments, appointments, removals, etc. 4. Agricultural group, responsible for the restoration of agricultural production. 5. Education group, responsible for the children's learning and education. 6. Repair group, responsible for repairs and construction within the residential area. Soon, after Zhu An made the final decision, the personnel appointment results were as follows. Patrol Team Leader Song Xiaoqian, Security Team Leader Tang Yun, Logistics Group Leader Qin Yuan, Personnel Group Leader Hao Jianwei, Agricultural Group Leader Ma Ning, Education Group Leader Teacher Shen, Repair Group Leader Feng Bei, Deputy Manager Hao Jianwei, Manager Zhu An. With that, a simple management structure was established. The next item is the issue of the residential area's defense. Zhu An looked at Feng Bei. The residential area's defenses were already as good as they could be, and Zhu An had cleared most of the zombies around the area. It could be said that one could walk several streets out from the residential area without seeing a single zombie. However, from the very beginning, the residential area's defenses were intended to guard against people. The gate of the residential area could no longer be rammed open by a car, and barbed wire had been laid on the perimeter walls. We have Tang Yun and Song Xiaoqian, and even guns, and the residential area's defenses have been strengthened. Even so, when encountering other survivors, we still cannot be careless. Fortresses are always breached from within. Do you understand? Understood, everyone answered in unison. Zhu An nodded. She now felt that her decision had been very wise. Now, whenever she wanted to do something in the residential area, she just needed to find the corresponding person, which was much easier and saved a lot of effort. Third, our residential area's goal is definitely not to just scrape by in the apocalypse, Juan clenched her fists, her eyes burning with fierce fighting spirit, but to kill all the zombies in Yunzhou City and save as many kind-hearted survivors as possible. I hope everyone can, on the basis of understanding this point, work hard for the future of the residential area. Upon hearing Juan's words, everyone couldn't help but gasp in astonishment. How many zombies were there in Yunzhou City? One had to know. Yunzhou City was a super first-tier metropolis. The floating population plus the permanent population exceeded 10 million, and not just by a little. If 80% of the people turned into zombies, then there were at least 10 million zombies in Yunzhou City. With so many zombies, could they be killed by the strength of one person? However, as everyone looked at Juan with the white cloth covering her eyes, confidence ignited in their hearts once again. It didn't matter. Managerin could always slice through everything with a single blade. Managerin was just that kind of person, someone skilled at creating hope. Good. Juan took in everyone's expressions and nodded. Then I announced that the first meeting of Yunjing residential area is concluded. Just at that moment, the satellite phone that Juan always carried rang. Tianhai Base, inside the research laboratory. Teacher, that batch of troops from Yunzhou City we mentioned earlier, they have arrived. Chen Jingshuan's tone was a bit stifled. Xiang Haoran didn't even lift his eyes. What is it? They brought a few special zombie corpses, and then, there is one more thing. Chen Jingshuan's tone became increasingly subtle. They discovered a very strong survivor. Strong? How strong? Upon hearing about special zombie corpses, Xiang Haoran became interested. Chen Jingxian shook his head. It's hard to explain clearly. I'll call their people over. A few minutes later, Zhou Jiang and Xia Qing appeared in the research laboratory. Zhou Jiang quickly recounted what happened that day. The zombie that could take bullets without injury, the zombie with corrosive blood, and Juan, who could fight a giant zombie alone and retrieve objects from a distance. The look of shock in Xiang Haoran's eyes grew deeper and deeper. Finally, Zhou Jiang added, we had soldiers record some of the footage with equipment, we can show it to you. We are not lying or suffering from a collective hallucination. Chen Jingxian then projected the footage onto the computer. The footage started with continuous gunfire. Under such firepower, the defensive zombie remained completely unharmed. Xiang Haoran's lips parted slightly. As a big shot who had studied biology his whole life, he had always considered life forms capable of resisting bullets to be impossible. He hadn't expected that a zombie could actually do it. The footage continued to play, and then the screen suddenly shifted, freezing on Juan. Juan easily blocked the defensive zombie's attack and then sent the zombie flying. Finally, with a wave of her hand, the crystal floated into the air and appeared in Juan's hand. This? Xiang Haoran was completely stunned. He suddenly felt that he had always been living in a fake world, studying fake knowledge. Could it be that what was appearing before his eyes now was the real world? Is this a human? After the video finished playing and the screen went black, Xiang Haoran was still unable to recover for a long time. Xia Qing smiled and said, at the time, we thought the same thing. Xiang Haoran hurriedly asked, do you have any way to contact her? Chapter 43, we meet again, do you have a crush on me? Hello, is there something you need? Juan answered the satellite phone. Hello, I am Xiang Haoran, the administrator of Tianhai Base. Xiang Haoran got straight to the point. Tianhai Base? Juan knew nothing about military affairs, so naturally, she didn't know about this base. However, she did recognize the name Xiang Haoran. He was a well-known bigwig in the field of biology in China. To think that a scholar-type person like him could actually hold an administrative position? It truly surprised Juan. Juan nodded and continued, so, what is it? Xiang Haoran's voice held a hint of barely concealed excitement. First of all, thank you for rescuing our soldiers, and for providing the zombie corpses and crystals. Mission, I have seen your abilities. Now, I have a mission I would like to entrust to you. Of course, I will also provide you with corresponding compensation. Juan pondered for a moment and said, sure, what do you need me to do? Xiang Haoran said, at the military base in Qingzhou, there are a few important, state-of-the-art scientific instruments. I would like to ask you to help me bring them back. Xiang Haoran rubbed his brow with his right hand. Even now, he still didn't have the slightest clue about the zombies. Now that he had obtained special zombie corpses, he didn't want to return empty-handed again. Of course, there hasn't been any news from the Qingzhou base, so it has likely fallen. We will send a military helicopter to pick you up, and you will also have military personnel assisting you. Zhuan nodded. When? If you can, how about now? Tell me your address. Alright, Zhuan gave an address, but she kept her guard up and didn't give the address of Yunjing residential area. Seeing that the cooperation was settled, Xiang Haoran's mood improved. I wonder what kind of compensation Misson would like? Use first, pay later. Bye. Zhuan smiled slyly, and after saying that, she hung up the satellite phone. Xiang Haoran also smiled, placed the satellite phone on the table, and continued to look at the image in the tunnel microscope. On this white crystal, still nothing had been discovered. However, in the zombie cells, a special substance had been discovered. This substance was extremely scarce and highly enclosed. It was impossible to see its internal structure, nor was there any way to open it. The equipment she was tasked with finding this time included an instrument designed to bombard and break apart biological molecules. I hope the research yields good results, Xiang Haoran prayed. On the other side, Zhuan walked out of the shelter. Everyone just assumed Zhuan was going out to kill zombies again and didn't think much of it. Zhuan killed as she walked, slowly arriving at the designated meeting spot to wait. About half an hour later, 2 helicopters appeared and slowly landed on the roof. 3 people got off, Zhou Jiang and Xia Qing, and the other was Chen Jingxian. That was fast. I didn't expect us to meet again so soon, Zhuan teased. Seeing Zhuan with her eyes covered by white cloth and a tang sword floating behind her, the 3 were momentarily surprised. Xia Qing asked directly, Misson? Your eyes? Zhuan laughed. It's fine, I'm not injured, and I can still see. The 3 nodded in tacit understanding and didn't ask further about it. I didn't expect us to meet so soon. Old Xiang thought that since we had met before, he would send me to carry out the mission, Zhou Jiang said, pointing to Chen Jingxian beside him. This is the technical personnel here to assist us, Chen Jingxian. Chen Jingxian nodded slightly. Misson, time is of the essence, let's set off immediately. Zhuan agreed, then followed the others onto the helicopter. She really can see. Chen Jingxian carefully observed Zhuan out of the corner of his eye and found that her steps were stable, and she didn't bump into people or other things. The helicopter started up quickly and flew at high speed toward the destination. Zhuan was resting and recuperating. In her relaxation, it felt like not long before the helicopter arrived at the destination. This was a wilderness, all that met the eye was endless greenery and desolation. It didn't look like there were any traces of human civilization, not even zombies. Everyone on the helicopter disembarked, and the fully armed soldiers began to stand guard with their guns. Chen Jingxian took out a strange machine and performed a series of operations. Slowly, the ground began to vibrate, and a room rose up. The group entered the room, where there was a console with a very obvious technological feel. Chen Jingxian performed another series of complex operations that dazzled Zhuan, and the ground beneath their feet began to vibrate again. The elevator is starting to come up. We need to prepare for battle, Chen Jingxian warned. Suddenly, everyone retreated outside the room, their guns aimed at the elevator that was about to appear. Zhu and Spirit probed downwards. There were no zombies in the elevator, only the corpses of some researchers and soldiers. There aren't any, Zhuan said softly. Chen Jingxian was slightly surprised. What do you mean there aren't any? The elevator had already risen, and everyone except Zhuan was acting as if they were facing a great enemy. The elevator doors opened, and sure enough, there wasn't a single zombie inside. Chen Jingxian took another look at Zhuan, his expression subtle. Let's go down. The elevator began to operate, carrying the group to the target floor. The elevator doors slowly opened, and sure enough, this time, the lobby was full of zombies. These zombies were clearly researchers or soldiers who had worked here while alive, which could be seen from the clothing they wore. But when the zombie outbreak occurred, they could only turn into zombies within this sealed base, turning this base into a dead zone. These zombies were also attracted by the sound of the elevator and began to charge toward it. The soldiers immediately opened fire, starting to kill the zombies. Following that, Zhuan also began to take action. Zhuan just gently waved her right hand, and dozens of zombies floated in the air, unable to move. Then, Zhuan waved again, and the tang sword behind her shot out directly, piercing through the heads of the zombies one by one at an extremely fast speed. At this moment, some soldiers were even so shocked that they stopped pulling their triggers. Is this a sword immortal? Chen Jingxian looked at Zhuan. Indeed, watching a video was different from seeing it in person. The shock it gave people was extraordinary. Under Zhuan's high-efficiency clearing, this group of zombies soon all died, turning into evolution points. With a thought from Zhuan, the tang sword quickly flew back to her side, its blade still as bright and new as ever, without a trace of blood. Seeing Chen Jingxian in a daze, Zhuan gently reminded him, "Let's go, Chen Jingxian, let's finish the mission quickly." "Oh," Chen Jingxian snapped out of it, right. At this efficiency, we will be able to clear out the zombies here and complete the mission very soon. And the soldiers he brought would not suffer any casualties at all. Zhuan nodded and continued to advance, while constantly searching for living people and killing zombies within the range of her spirit. These soldiers basically didn't have to fire their guns much, often, before they even saw the zombies had already been ferreted out and killed by Zhuan. Just like that, the group moved forward all the way and successfully walked to a corridor. Ahead is where the equipment is located. Be careful not to fire your guns, do not damage the precision equipment. Chen Jingxian emphasized. In fact, it was precisely because this equipment was too precious, and the military's firepower was difficult to control without causing damage, that Xiang Haoran thought of an individual combatant like Zhuan. Following Chen Jingxuan's operation, the corridor door slowly opened, and at the same time, everyone heard an angry roar. No one expected that there would be a strength-type zombie with immense strength here. Chapter 44, You have done very well. Don't shoot. Chen Jingxian made an urgent gesture. Are you kidding? If this equipment breaks, how much would it cost to repair? The key is that there is no one left to repair it either. Most of the high-end technical talent has been wiped out completely, and even if there were any lucky survivors, they couldn't be contacted. Therefore, if it weren't for Zhuan, this one evolved zombie would have been enough to kill quite a few of them. This strength-type zombie immediately charged toward Zhuan, who was leading the group. The seemingly powerful strike appeared as if it would directly shatter Zhuan's head. However, Zhuan didn't move an inch, and the strength-type zombie wasn't suspended in midair by Zhuan's methods as it had been before. Could it be? Has Zhuan's power been exhausted? A bad thought crossed Chen Jingxuan's mind, but the next moment, Zhuan's situation shocked him once again. Facing the incoming fist, Zhuan's expression remained unchanged. Stop. The fist seemed to strike something like highly viscous fluid. Its power and speed slowly faded until it finally came to a near standstill. What kind of new ability is this? Chen Jingxian shook his head. Zhuan was truly constantly breaking the limits of his imagination. When a person's body can withstand machine gun fire, you will be shocked. When you discover that this person can also withstand missiles, you will be shocked. Finally, when you find that they can take a nuclear blast and not die, you are left speechless. This was the feeling Zhuan gave Chen Jingxian. She was constantly getting stronger, constantly breaking his imagination. Zhuan moved slightly and slashed the head of the strength-type zombie to pieces. The feeling of the crystal nourishing the blade returned once again. Killed evolved zombie strength-type zombie, evolution point +3. Zhuan nodded with satisfaction. You guys can get to work now, right? I'll rest for a while. After saying that, she began to activate her reverse cursed technique. Chen Jingxian immediately began calling the soldiers to start moving the instruments. There is one less of these devices every time one breaks, so be careful. Two soldiers were carrying an instrument together when suddenly, one soldier stepped on a zombie's hand. The zombie, which had just died, twitched, giving the soldier a fright, and the instrument in his hand slipped. "Oh no, the equipment," the soldier shouted anxiously. The sound of it hitting the ground, which he had imagined, did not come. The soldier looked up and happened to see the smile on Zhu An's blindfolded face. "It's fine, I'll take care of this one." The soldier nodded repeatedly. "Okay, thank you, thank you." Zhu An manipulated the air, slowly lifting the instrument toward the elevator. Chen Jingxian had also finished packing up the equipment by this time. They had now completed their mission. He hadn't expected to complete the mission so easily without any casualties. All of this was thanks to one person. It was the mysterious woman before him. "Zhu An, can we go back now?" Zhu An asked. Chen Jingxian nodded, his movements becoming hurried. "Once we get the things back, we can leave. I'm starting to call for the other helicopters now." Zhu An shook her head. "There are still survivors in this base." "How do you know?" Zhu An pointed to her own eyes. "I can see." Although it was a bit absurd for someone who looked like a blind person to say they could see through things, Chen Jingxian knew that Zhu An could indeed see. Every survivor in the base was a useful talent. Since Zhu An could help, they should try to gather as many as possible to strengthen the base's power. Chen Jingxian thought this to himself as he dialed the communication, and it was connected shortly after. "The equipment from Qingzhou base has been recovered. We are currently planning to rescue the remaining survivors in the base. Please instruct." The person on the other end of the communication hadn't expected it to end so quickly. Chen Jingxian heard some noise from the headset. After about 2 or 3 minutes, Xiang Haoren's voice rang out. "Are there any casualties? If you have the spare capacity, try your best to rescue them." "No, this operation went very smoothly." "Good, I will send more helicopters to pick you up." Chen Jingxian hung up the communication and nodded toward Zhu An. "All right, where are our survivors?" Zhu An smiled. "Not far from where we put the equipment." Chen Jingxian split into 2 teams. Chen Jingxian, Zhou Jiang, and Xia Qing followed Zhu An, while the others transported the equipment outside. The group followed Zhu An. Zhu An arrived not far from where the equipment was placed and then twisted and turned until they reached a small secret room. It had already been locked. Chen Jingxian stepped forward and operated it a couple of times, then stepped back. "It won't work. This password has been changed. If you want me to crack it, it will take a lot of time." Zhu An frowned and signaled. "It doesn't matter if this door is destroyed, right? You guys step back, I'll do it." The 3 of them sensibly stepped back. Zhu An raised a foot, adjusted the force, and kicked directly down. The door, made of a special hard alloy, was instantly kicked through. At the same time, Zhu An also suffered a mishap. Her ordinary shoes could not withstand this expansion and were directly flattened into 2 dimensions. Zhu An pushed with her hand again, and this seemingly indestructible door was destroyed. As everyone knows, everything that claims to be indestructible is terrifyingly fragile. Zhu An was missing one shoe, so she simply threw away the shoe on her other foot as well, her feet hovering slightly off the ground. The 3 of them watched Zhu An's violent actions, their eyelids twitching slightly. "Miss An is really unconstrained. Just a moment ago she was like a sort of mortal, and now she is like a street thug." The group filed in, and soon, Chen Jingxian saw a figure wearing a white lab coat curled up in the corner. Qi Fengyao was curled up in the corner in fear. He had long since heard the commotion Zhu An had made. However, he thought it was some zombie attacking his secret room door again. He could not forget that zombie, those twisted limbs and nightmarish speed, quickly slaughtering his remaining companions one by one. That scene was like a nightmare that wouldn't fade from his mind. When Chen Jingxian saw this person, he couldn't help but feel a bit shocked. The person before him was truly emaciated, so hungry that his veins and skeleton were clearly visible. If their group had arrived 1 day later, he definitely would have starved to death. "Who are you?" We are from Tianhai Base, here to recover equipment. Someone happened to find you, so we came to rescue you. Qi Fengyao was a bit stunned, then suddenly burst into tears, tears streaming down his face. Apparently, his body couldn't support such intense emotions, so he immediately began to cough violently. Zhuan silently walked forward, a faint blue light flashing in her hand as she placed it on Qi Fengyao's shoulder. Zhuan comforted him softly, "Please rest assured, you are safe now. You have done very well." Qi Fengyao felt the discomfort in his body rapidly disappearing, and his entire state becoming as good as normal. What is this? Someone heard of new technology or new medicine? Are there any other survivors on other floors? Hearing this, Qi Fengyao's eyes were filled with fear, and his hands and feet began to tremble. They are all dead. There is a ghost-like zombie there. They are all dead, everyone. Chapter 45, Enhanced Type appears. Everyone. Everyone is dead. Qi Fengyao shook his head in terror. Zhuan pressed her hands onto Qi Fengyao's shoulders and emphasized, "Please calm down and speak clearly." After a few breaths, Qi Fengyao returned to calm. At the very beginning of the outbreak, our base was almost completely overrun. The remaining survivors gathered together and luckily survived for a few days. But unexpectedly, one day, a strange zombie crawling on all fours was lying in wait for us. It took advantage of when we opened the door and entered our shelter. This zombie was very fast and could leap across the ceiling and walls. Coupled with other zombies swarming in, our people were wiped out very quickly. Only I was lucky enough to get into the elevator, come to this floor, and luckily reach the secret room. But I didn't dare to go out to find food and almost starved to death. Chen Jingshan listened and sighed. He hadn't expected the Qinghai base to be almost completely wiped out, with only one person left. "What is your name?" Chen Jingshan asked. "Qi Fengyao, from the field of biological genetic engineering." Chen Jingshan nodded, "Good. Our base is currently in need of someone like you for zombie research. Let me introduce us. I am Chen Jingshan, a researcher at Tianhai Base, also in the field of biological genetic engineering. This is Captain Zhou Jiang, and this is Sergeant Xia Qing." Chen Jingshan pointed at Zhuan. "As for this person, she is a special survivor, Zhuan, who is also participating in our operation." Zhuan nodded and said, "Should we completely clear out the space?" Chen Jingshan frowned slightly and said sternly, "Missen, there are no survivors left in this base. Continuing to persist is just meaningless labor." No, Zhuan shook her head. "Based on what Qi Fengyao just described, this zombie is very similar to a type I've killed before, and it seems much stronger than the one I killed." "What do you mean?" Zhuan smiled brightly. "Perhaps some features on this zombie will be more distinct than those other ones? Its corpse could allow research to progress faster. Besides, it's better to finish the job all at once. This little bit of extra work can be considered a bonus." Chen Jingshan was persuaded by Zhuan. The key was that Zhuan was the strongest combatant in the team. If she really wanted to do it, they couldn't stop her, so it was better to just go along with it. "Fine, we'll listen to you." The group quickly arrived at the elevator, and Xia Qing handed Qi Fengyao something that looked like a potion. "This is glucose. You can't eat solid food right now, so you need to consume this first to recover your strength." Qi Fengyao gulped down the glucose. The long-lost sugar made every cell in his body cheer with joy. Before long, the group descended to the next floor. As soon as the door opened, they could see broken corpses and severed limbs scattered across the floor. Clearly, a horrific massacre had occurred here. Everyone's brows furrowed. Qi Fengyao, seeing a face on a severed head facing him directly, started retching immediately. Zhuan's expression flickered slightly as she stepped out of the elevator. "No, Missen, it's dangerous. The weapons you have can't handle it." Qi Fengyao shouted, looking around at Chen Jingshan and the others, but to his surprise, the three of them remained unmoved. "It's fine, she's very strong." "It's fine, I'm very strong." Two voices came at the same time, leaving Qi Fengyao completely baffled. What was going on? The next moment, the zombie smelled their flesh and blood and suddenly appeared on the ceiling. Zhuan looked up and saw that this zombie was also on all fours, but its limbs had greatly mutated and lengthened, and a pair of hands had grown out of its abdomen, making it look like an ugly humanoid spider. What a strange zombie, Zhuan remarked dryly. In an instant, the zombie vanished from the ceiling and jumped behind Zhuan. Its upper limb seemed about to sever Zhuan's head immediately. Zhuan did not make any defensive moves, she simply turned her head calmly. The sharp upper limbs failed to advance even a single inch. What fast speed! Zhuan calculated in her mind, this zombie's speed was definitely around 6 seconds per 100 meters, equivalent to the speed she had when she possessed 80 points of speed. 6 seconds for 100 meters, for an ordinary person, this speed was practically teleportation. Especially in a confined indoor environment, this zombie could quickly dart and maneuver. There was no way to attack it, nor any way to track it. Zhuan could imagine that when survivors were attacked by it, it was like the despair of the Earth fleet facing a droplet. Seeing that this strike had failed, the zombie leapt back onto the ceiling and attacked again. This time, Zhuan turned off Limitless, reached out, and easily grasped the zombie's hand. At the elevator, Qi Fengyao was left dumbfounded. The strange zombie that had wiped out all their survivors was being easily handled by Zhuan? He looked at Chen Jingxian and the other two again, but seeing them feigning ignorance with their eyes fixed on their noses, he knew he wouldn't get any answers. With such strength, it was no wonder Zhuan could participate in an operation like this. This person? Could she be a modified soldier or a special trump card of the military? Qi Fengyao immediately imagined dozens of tragic backstories in his mind. Zhuan easily took the blow, surprisingly weak. The strength of this strike was estimated to be about the same as the current Song Xiaoqian, slightly inferior to a typical strength-type zombie. It seems that the stat allocation for zombies is limited. If you want speed, you have to sacrifice strength, and if you want strength, you have to sacrifice speed. You can't have your cake and eat it too. But Zhuan was different. Zhuan could add points to anything and achieve balanced development. It seemed this zombie was just that. Zhuan gave her hand a light twist, snapping the zombie's arm off, and the zombie instantly let out a painful hiss. The next moment, its crystal burst through its brain and slowly came into Zhuan's hand. Killed enhanced type tentacle type zombie, evolution point plus 10. Whoa, 10 evolution points? That's really generous, Zhuan thought to herself. The crystal of an enhanced type zombie is yellow, a shade deeper than the white of an evolved type. Then, Zhuan crushed the crystal. The others behind her, seeing the battle was over, walked forward one after another. How was it? Chen Jingxian asked. Zhuan nodded. This zombie has indeed traveled further on the path of evolution than the previous ones. It was definitely a worthwhile gain. Afterward, the group followed Zhuan to begin clearing out the other zombies. The zombies in this base were wiped out at a crazy speed in this matter. As expected, there's not a single person left. While killing zombies, Zhuan used her spirit power to sense for signs of life in the building. Clearly, she didn't find any. This base was indeed dead, except for Qi Fengyao. Just as Zhuan killed the last zombie, Chen Jingxuan's communication device rang, notifying him that the helicopter was in position. The mission here is complete, we're heading up now, Chen Jingxian replied. Next, Zhuan and her group took the elevator, with the enhanced type zombie corpse being controlled by Zhuan. The helicopter had just enough room for the personnel and equipment, and the extra helicopter sent over didn't go to waste, it was used to carry the zombie corpse. Just like that, the group successfully and satisfactorily completed the mission. Thank you for your immense help, Miss N, Chen Jingxian thanked her repeatedly. For this mission, 99% of the effort was indeed Zhuan's. The teacher's idea was truly correct. Zhuan smiled kindly. No. I am also very honored to be able to cooperate with the military. I think we will have more dealings in the future. Then. Goodbye. The other helicopters began to take off, flying in formation toward the base, while the helicopter carrying Zhuan headed straight for Yunzhou City. Chapter 46, Brought you a good toy. In Yunzhou City, having just stepped off the helicopter. That was Zhuan's first impression upon descending from the helicopter. Just at that moment, Zhuan received a satellite phone call from Xiang Haoran. Comrade Zhuan, you did very well. I didn't expect you to complete the task so brilliantly. While completing the basic mission, you also rescued a researcher, brought back the corpse of an evolved zombie, and incidentally cleared out all the zombies in an entire base. Truly an unexpected harvest. Zhuan, is there anything you want? Zhuan smiled and said, I would like some firearms, preferably a man-portable RPG. Firearms? Xiang Haoran paused in surprise. Logically speaking, given how strong Zhuan was, she no longer needed firearms to protect herself. However, as a quick-witted scientist, he soon realized that Zhuan must have established a shelter. Fine, no problem. What is the location? Zhuan was silent for a moment, then said, Yunzhou City, Yunjing residential area. Just ship them there. That is the shelter I established. Alright, I will arrange it shortly, Xiang Haoran said relaxedly. Zhuan, I think we will cooperate again in the future. Zhuan smiled, that would be my honor. In the future, if you find any special zombies or make other discoveries, feel free to contact me via the satellite phone. I will provide a certain amount of information sharing and human resources on my end. Alright, thank you. After speaking, Zhuan hung up the phone and set off on the road back to the shelter. Zhuan lightly leaped downstairs, her movements as agile as a swallow. Zhuan continued in this manner, killing zombies as she walked. The difference was that some zombies on lower floors, not on the streets, would inexplicably have their heads explode and die instantly. This was because Zhuan had activated her crimson blood manipulation technique from a distance, causing the blood inside the zombies' brains to explode. Occasionally, a white crystal would fly onto Zhuan, which she would put in her pocket. If this were a video game, it would be equivalent to everyone else still using the beginner sword given by the master in the newbie village to fight mushroom monsters, while Zhuan was already using large-scale one-hit kills and auto-loot to fight the final boss. Zhuan walked leisurely all the way to the shelter. You're back so early today, sisterin. Song Xiaoqian, who was patrolling, brightened up. Zhuan deliberately put on a tired expression and sat on a chair. I was a little tired today, so I came back early. Song Xiaoqian stood behind Zhuan. Come, let me rub your shoulders, sisterin. She started to work on it, but at first, she couldn't knead Zhuan's muscles. It was only after Zhuan relaxed her muscles that she could start kneading. The patrol team was a relatively leisurely group. After all, there were no unsafe factors in the residential area, which bored Song Xiaoqian to death. At this moment, the sound of helicopter rotors rang out again. Song Xiaoqian looked up and saw a helicopter slowly landing within the Yunjing residential area. Song Xiaoqian looked at the helicopter, then at Zhuan, her eyes sparkling. Sisterin, were you just setting up this big surprise? Zhuan hummed, of course. Hurry, hurry, hurry. This is equipment I risked my life to get for your team. Go receive it. Song Xiaoqian responded and trotted over to get the supplies. Is this a Type 95? This seems to be a fragmentation grenade. Wow, and this big guy. Watching Song Xiaoqian smile, Zhuan also smiled inside. The police pistols they had originally acquired were about to be eliminated without even firing a single bullet. After all, the power of police pistols was intentionally lowered, mainly to control dangerous individuals. Of course, bleeding from wounds could still kill people. For evolved zombies or awakened ones, proper firearms could still cause damage. The commotion from the helicopter naturally attracted many residents of the residential area to come out and watch. They exclaimed in amazement, knowing that this must be Zhuan's handiwork. Tang Yin came to Zhuan's side. Have we reached an agreement with the military? Zhuan nodded. Come to think of it, we actually count as a small faction now. As long as we can ensure safety, that's fine. Does the military have any progress in their research? I help them get high-level zombie corpses and equipment. The rest depends on their own scientific research capabilities. Anyway, with only a few of us here, we definitely can't do it. Tang Yin said, recently, my ability has increased by 1 point again. Zhuan immediately became interested. Do you feel it increasing every day? Tang Yin said vaguely, the amount per day feels very small, but if you take 3 days as a limit, the growth is quite noticeable. Now, zombies of the second evolutionary stage have already appeared outside. Zhuan's expression was subtle. I want to call the first evolutionary stage of zombies evolved zombie, and the second stage enhanced type. Zhuan judged based on the system points. Anyway, the system wouldn't jump out and accuse her of plagiarism. Come to think of it, Zhuan's system was completely different from the chatty systems or mall-like systems in the novels she read before. Unlike those flashy systems, Zhuan's system was straightforward and simple, adding points and curse technique. It didn't say anything, just let you explore it yourself. Correspondingly, first stage awakened ones will be called first order awakened ones, and second stage will be called second order. Tang Yin thought it was feasible. Good, let's take the naming rights first. But I didn't expect that there would already be second stage zombies outside. Tang Yan's voice sounded a bit frustrated. After all, his current ability didn't have much combat power yet. Yes, the evolution speed of awakened ones is far slower than zombies. So I think there must be some factor that allows awakened ones and zombies to evolve to a similar degree. Both of them thought of the crystal simultaneously, but the crystal was completely unknown, and taking it rashly. It's fine, I'm saving the crystals. After confirming they are safe, I will let you use them, Zhuan promised. As she spoke, Zhuan opened the panel and began to count her harvest. Constitution, 1500, limit. Spirit, 1500, limit. Agility, 690, limit. Unlocked curse technique, Crimson Blood Manipulation Technique, 88 out of 100, proficient. Reverse curse technique, 33 out of 100, skilled. Limitless, 4100s, skilled. Evolution point, 3. Limitless and reverse curse technique had actually reached the skilled level very quickly. One reason was that reverse curse technique could clear the mental fatigue of Limitless, allowing for constant circulation. The second was that Zhuan had roughly understood the method for breaking through the proficiency levels of cursed technique, which was to force definitions and force concepts. Therefore, Zhuan's proficiency increased very quickly. On the other side, in a dilapidated block. Clearly, a brutal battle had occurred here. Many broken corpses were lying on the ground, both human and zombie. The most eye-catching thing was the dead giant zombie in the center. The few survivors approached and began smashing the zombie's head. Before long, one person pulled out a white crystal. Without hesitation, he swallowed it immediately. He thought this was his only chance in the apocalypse. He wanted to swallow the crystal, become an ability user, and start his own legendary journey in the end times. Damn, you bastard. The remaining survivors immediately pinned him down, wanting to make him spit it out. Are you kidding? Something obtained after so many people died, how could they report back if someone ate it? The person who swallowed the crystal didn't expect that the size of the crystal would be so hard to swallow. Plus, being stopped by the others, the crystal in his mouth was spat out. However, he didn't notice that his mouth had already been cut by a small wound. The 3 people kicked and punched him, but slowly, he stopped screaming, and his body became stiffer and stiffer. Finally, this survivor who wanted to become an ability user was infected by the crystal and turned into a zombie, lunging at one of the survivors who was attacking him. Bang! A steady, accurate, and ruthless heavy blow quickly struck its brain. Then another hit, and the zombie slowly fell. Everyone looked at the dead body and silently picked up the crystal on the ground. Brother you, how do we report this? What do you mean how to report it? Wash it clean, and pretend nothing happened. Alright, that's it then. The remaining 3 discussed their story and drove a car back. At night, Xiang Haoren was still sitting at the experimental bench. He had discovered a certain substance within the cells of the evolved zombie. Although he could start analyzing it with the new equipment, the amount he could extract at one time was too small, not yet reaching the minimum precision requirement of the equipment. At this moment, his gaze turned to the zombie corpse with 2 pairs of hands. According to Zhuan, this zombie's evolutionary level was higher. Perhaps on its body, there would be a breakthrough in research. Xiang Haoran thought this and began the experiment. Chapter 47, Spatial Ability. In a residential building in a certain district of the imperial capital, Cui Yiming sat on the sofa, taking stock of the remaining supplies in his home. Cui Yiming was a news anchor for the news broadcast when the zombie outbreak first began. In truth, he shouldn't have been the one on air, but since all the old fogies had turned, he was forced to step up in an emergency. Fortunately, Cui Yiming had been well prepared, which saved him from becoming the first person to be bitten to death by zombies in front of the entire nation. Afterward, he fled all the way back, and amidst the chaos of the initial zombie outbreak, he was incredibly lucky to escape back to his residence and had been hiding there ever since. However, he was now out of food. Cui Yiming looked at the items on the sofa. He had also prepared some weapons and armor to ensure his own safety. But he still felt quite uneasy deep down. If only he had an ability. Before the network in the imperial capital collapsed, some well-connected friends had secretly sent him messages, so he was aware that some people in this world had undergone special evolutions. Cui Yiming shouldered his large backpack. If only he could store items, something like a storage bag. As Cui Yiming thought this, the next moment, the backpack vanished. Cui Yiming was instantly shocked. What is this? In an instant, an image of the backpack appeared in Cui Yiming's mind. It was a rather abstract sensation, roughly like an extra layer added before his eyes. Cui Yiming sank his consciousness into it, and intuitively, the bag appeared in his hands. Is this a spatial ability? Cui Yiming paused, feeling a sense of disbelief like pulling 10 gold cards in a 10-pull gacha. There is a saying among abilities, when time does not appear, space is king. This shows the power of spatial abilities. However, this ability's awakening wasn't as obvious as other abilities. He must have awakened it long ago but simply hadn't realized it until he happened to discover it this time. Soon, Cui Yiming excitedly began to test this ability. He quickly discovered the characteristics of his space. The size was very small, only about 1 cubic meter, so it couldn't hold very large items. Inanimate objects, no matter how long they were kept inside, would remain exactly the same when taken out. For example, if a cup of hot water was put in, it would be just as hot when taken out after 10 minutes or so. As for living things, he had no test subjects for now. The method to put items in was to press his hand against the edge of the object and think store. The method to take them out was even simpler. Just think about releasing a certain object, and it would appear. After Cui Yiming had roughly figured these things out, he realized that his current ability was merely for storing items and provided no enhancement to his own combat power. Thinking of this, Cui Yiming felt a bit discouraged. It's fine, the ability will evolve again, and then I can develop more uses for it. Cui Yiming encouraged himself. After finally organizing his protection and weapons, Cui Yiming observed through the peephole for a while, and after confirming there was no danger, he cautiously began to go downstairs. He was going to the nearest supermarket to try his luck. After all, he had a spatial ability, which had a strong capacity for storing supplies. One haul would definitely be enough for him to live on for a long time. Cui Yiming went all the way downstairs without encountering a single zombie, successfully made it to his car, and drove toward the nearest supermarket. Arriving at the supermarket, he discovered something slightly off. The zombies here had clearly been cleared out by someone. Cui Yiming slowly parked the car and observed carefully. He only saw a large pile of fresh zombie corpses at the supermarket entrance, along with several cars that were brazenly left idling. Inside the supermarket, a group of survivors were clearing out supplies, while 2 or 3 people were resting leisurely, looking very much like pampered young masters. Brother Qian, we've had a huge harvest this time, one survivor said fawningly to a young man sitting on a chair, while simultaneously bringing a lit lighter toward him. Humph, Qianshu snorted coldly, lighting his cigarette. These useless things, so many have died. Although it saves a few rations, it won't be easy for me to report back. Yes, 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 cold sweat broke out on the man's face. After all, they were not ability users like Qianshu, and according to Qianshu, they were all useless things. Although Qianshu looked very arrogant, he was actually quite distressed inside. Recently, his big brother Guanhu had been pushing him hard, making him go kill those evolved zombies to get crystals. Are you kidding me? Should I let you take advantage of the zombies I worked so hard to kill? But the key was that he was a speed-type ability user and simply couldn't beat Guanhu, a strength-type ability user. Sigh, Qianshu let out a sigh. Before long, the remaining survivors had completely filled the cars with supplies. Alright, let's go back. Qianshu stubbed out his cigarette and walked to the entrance. Being sensitive, he immediately spotted Cui Yiming's car not too far away. It hadn't been turned off, and the headlights were flashing. It seems there are still little mice nearby, Qianshu muttered to himself. Brother Qian, what did you say? Qianshu glanced at him and snorted coldly, I wasn't talking to you. Let's go. Cui Yiming, hiding in the shadows, let out a sigh of relief after seeing the convoy slowly drive away from the supermarket. After waiting a few more minutes, he entered the supermarket. It had just been looted, so it appeared even more chaotic, with all sorts of items scattered everywhere. Cui Yiming headed straight for the food section and began frantically sweeping up all kinds of food, canned goods, and so on. 1 cubic meter of space sounded like very little, but in reality, 1 cubic meter was 1,000 liters, which was roughly equivalent to several suitcases. Cui Yiming swept through the shelves like a storm, gathering everything into his space. He wanted to finish the looting as quickly as possible and rush back to his safe home. However, the next moment, he heard the sound of cars approaching. And not just one. They were approaching very quickly. Cui Yiming had no choice but to hide on the second floor. In front of the supermarket, the group led by Qianshu that had just left returned again. Search it. Someone must be inside now. A cruel expression appeared on Qianshu's face. Wanting to lurk behind and take advantage of me? It's not that simple. Although the other survivors were dissatisfied, they didn't dare show it and had to go into the supermarket to search for the person. Cui Yiming heard the commotion of searching on the first floor and knew things were bad. This group of people had come specifically for him. Cui Yiming hardened his heart, walked directly to the window, smashed the glass, and jumped out. Qianshu naturally heard this sound as well. Found you. Following the sound, Qianshu arrived a few dozen meters in front of Cui Yiming. Cui Yiming was still recovering from the impact of jumping down and the pain from some glass cuts. Seeing Qianshu, he suddenly didn't feel the pain anymore. Under the immense sense of crisis, he burst out with the greatest speed of his life. Want to outrun me? Qianshu lunged forward and began his acceleration. I am a speed-type ability user. Just as Cui Yiming was about to reach his car, a hand grabbed the clothes on his back. Then, a hand roughly turned his shoulder around and delivered a heavy punch straight to his face. Are you still going to run now? Qianshu said arrogantly. At this moment, the others heard the commotion and surrounded them. Brother Qian, how should we deal with this kid? What do you mean how to deal with him? Obviously, drag him back, Qianshu spat. It's a pity he's not a girl. Chapter 48, already played like a fiddle. A diamond suit, ha diamond suit. Cui Yiming was roughly shoved into a car. At this moment, Qianshu carefully examined Cui Yiming's face, and after a long while, he asked with confusion, why does your face look familiar to me? Cui Yiming trembled, the host on TV at the very beginning. Qianshu wore a suppressed, mocking smile, I really didn't expect to be able to catch someone like you. However, those who were not ability users were just driven off to feed the zombies. Big brother, where are we going? Cui Yiming asked cautiously, fearing he might provoke Qian Shu. Don't call me big brother. My name is Qian Shu. From now on, call me Brother Qian, got it? Okay, Brother Qian. Cui Yiming surrendered at lightning speed. We are taking you back to our shelter now. You will meet our boss, Guan Hu, very soon. He is a strength ability user who can punch a hole through your stomach, so don't even think about escaping. Hearing this, Cui Yiming couldn't help but swallow hard. Looking at Cui Yiming's terrified appearance through the rearview mirror, Qian Shu couldn't help but feel a bit of disdain. His convoy had been out for quite a while, and in that time, this guy hadn't managed to get anything, nor did he have anything in his car. He was a total idiot. Soon, the group returned to the shelter. Guan Hu's shelter was in an office building. After parking the cars, the group took the supplies and headed up. Cui Yiming immediately saw a corpse on the ground with a large hole in its stomach, intestines spilled everywhere, and a hideous expression. It was clearly someone whose stomach had been smashed before being thrown down. Cui Yiming felt like crying but had no tears. He didn't expect that the first time he came out, he would be caught by such a wicked gang of survivors. In the apocalypse, there is no law, all rules depend on one's own fists. Qian Shu quickly led everyone to the 5th floor, which was their level. Under Qian Shu's guidance, Cui Yiming soon met Guan Hu. Guan Hu was a burly, middle-aged man with a scar on the corner of his eye, looking very difficult to mess with. Behind Guan Hu was a group of survivors. These survivors were clearly in a bad mental state. It was evident that they were starving and a bit neurotic. They showed no reaction when they saw Qian Shu and his group return. Boss, 4 people died this time, but we got some supplies and 1 crystal. Qian Shu took out a white crystal and handed it to Guan Hu. Guan Hu nodded, accepted the crystal, and looked at Cui Yiming. Seeing his boss's gaze, Qian Shu said, "This is a survivor I just caught?" Guan Hu also looked thoughtful, then suddenly laughed. "Your face? Oh, you're Cui Yiming. I didn't expect you to still be alive." Cui Yiming was filled with fear and trepidation. Guan Hu patted Cui Yiming on the shoulder. "The past is the past, and now is now. Remember, here, I am the sky. Recognize your position." As he spoke, he looked at a few survivors in the corner. Feeling Guan Hu's gaze, those survivors couldn't help but tremble. For these guys, it didn't matter if you were a famous entrepreneur or a cadre before, as long as you didn't please Guan Hu, you had to die. Just like that, he had killed one just yesterday. If you want food, go out with Qian Shu. If you men starve to death here, I don't care. Guan Hu said viciously, then went directly back to his room. Guan Hu sat on his bed, looking at the white crystal in his hand. Eating white crystals no longer provided him with much improvement, or rather, the improvement was too small. But right now, he couldn't find any other colored crystals to consume. Even if there were, he probably couldn't get them relying on Qian Shu and those useless survivors. Should he cultivate Qian Shu? He probably skimmed off some crystals too, and cultivating him would be cultivating a rival. Guan Hu wanted Qian Shu to run, but he didn't want Qian Shu to eat the grass. How could there be such a good deal? "Brother Qian, what are crystals used for?" Qian Shu glanced at him. "Crystals are for us ability users to eat. Normal people will just turn into zombies if they eat them, so don't have any pipe dreams. The last guy who stole one, his corpse is still downstairs." Cui Yiming's heart was suddenly filled with stormy waves. So, crystals could enhance one's abilities. Now he finally had a clear method to improve his superpower. Although he didn't know what would happen to his superpower later, whether it would become a larger space or possess other new abilities, in this world, having an extra bit of self-preservation power was more important. "I see, I understand." Cui Yiming then asked, "Brother Qian, can I go out with you next time to scavenge for supplies or kill zombies?" Why? Qian Shu looked puzzled. These survivors usually couldn't wait to hide here, not daring to go out to scavenge for supplies even if they were eating the bare minimum. He hadn't expected this Cui Yiming he had just caught to be so bold. Qianshu started to find him interesting. Cui Yiming explained, actually, I just want to be full. I'm scared of hunger. I'd rather be bitten to death by a zombie than go hungry. In reality, Cui Yiming's space was already half filled with food supplies, and he could completely sustain himself for a long time. But he couldn't escape on his own. More importantly, he could skim off crystals through Qianshu to improve himself. If he were lucky enough to escape, he wouldn't have the ability to kill zombies to get crystals. Fine, Qianshu laughed, but I won't care if you live or die. If you die, you die, it has nothing to do with me. Cui Yiming promised repeatedly, okay, brother Qian, no problem at all. Yunzhou City, a certain district. And you finished a bottle of happy water and looked at the interface of a single-player game, feeling a wave of boredom. He walked to the balcony, which happened to face the balcony of Han Xiaoxiao's home. At this moment, Han Rushuang was on the balcony tidying up clothes. He immediately waved at Han Rushuang to get her attention. When Han Rushuang saw Anyu, she was startled. She didn't expect their two homes to be so close, it was truly a coincidence. I'm coming over to play with you. Anyu shouted in Han Rushuang's direction. Without waiting for her response, he went downstairs and headed toward her home. Relying on his trait of being ignored by zombies, Anyu easily arrived downstairs at their building. At this time, Lu Chao also happened to spot Anyu and immediately began to check the situation through binoculars. This guy is so careless? He's not even carrying a weapon? His luck is damn good, Lu Chao thought as he looked at Anyu, discovering that Anyu had no weapons on him, only some food in his hands. Based on his build, Lu Chao judged that this person must be the owner of the large footprints discovered at the supermarket that day. Then, the ones he was looking for now must be those two women. Lu Chao licked his lips. After all, it was the apocalypse now, and he had been holding it in for too long. He also wanted to do whatever he pleased. With his ability to control zombies, he should be living it up in the apocalypse, killing whoever he didn't like and taking whoever he fancied. And these three survivors would just be the first appetizer of his apocalypse. Found you, Lu Chao saw Anyu's figure through the small window of the stairwell, finally noting which floor he stopped at. Afterward, Lu Chao waited for half an hour without seeing Anyu come out, so he retreated. However, just after he retreated, Anyu came out of the building. As for Anyu, he had just gone over to have an awkward chat with the Han Xiaoxiao sisters, just like an awkward chat with a girl on WeChat, or even worse, because now they were talking face to face. Have you eaten? What did you eat? How have you been lately? A set of smooth, small combos. Han Rushuang wore a standard smile, and you should go back. Don't worry, the two of us are living very well. Since our balconies face each other, sometimes we will hang a sign on the balcony to contact you. Thank you for the things you gave us. Hearing this, Anyu grinned foolishly, it's nothing, small matter, small matter. If anything happens, definitely remember to tell me. Well, I'm going now. Anyu went downstairs to return. Actually, he wanted to bring his computer and stuff over here and just become neighbors with Han Rushuang. If they were face to face, would he still have to worry about not having a relationship? It's just that when facing Han Rushuang, he still couldn't bring himself to make that request. Sigh, the road ahead is long and arduous. Anyu sighed. On the other side, Han Xiaoxiao was talking to Han Rushuang, sister, that fatty obviously has designs on you. What should we do? Han Rushuang glanced at her sister, what do you mean what should we do? He's willing to give. Are you going to use the me accepting supplies doesn't mean I accept him excuse, sister? Han Rushuang tapped her sister's head, what are you thinking? No matter what happens, it's not something for you to worry about. And you is indeed a good person. Before, she wouldn't have looked twice at such a kind-hearted, big otaku, but now, he had the ability to get supplies and was truly kind-hearted. Honestly, these conditions were quite good for the apocalypse. It was just that Han Rushuang wanted a little buffer time to accept it. However, in a corner none of the three knew about, Lu Chao had already been keeping a close eye on them. Chapter 49, The Boomerang of Education. It was another clear morning, with a cloudless sky stretching as far as the eye could see, and Yunjing residential area was already brimming with vitality. Some people were tending to new vegetable seedlings, others were cleaning, and some were on patrol. Zhuan walked through the familiar residential area, and everyone she met along the way greeted her one after another. "Good morning, Managerin." Zhuan nodded in acknowledgement, but suddenly, a strange thought occurred to her. She walked to the classroom where teacher Shen was teaching Lin Zijin and Yang Yutao, wanting to check on the two children's progress. Though it was called a classroom, it was actually just an ordinary room. As it happened, both children had just finished the second grade. They would normally have been promoted to the third grade after the summer break. Third grade math had already started teaching some simple vertical calculations and establishing an understanding of fractions. At this moment, teacher Shen was standing in front of Lin Zijin's desk, guiding her patiently. Seeing Lin Zijin biting the end of her pen in distress, Zhuan couldn't help but laugh out loud. The three of them immediately turned to look at her. Zhuan put on a solemn expression, as if she hadn't just been laughing. "Not bad, not bad. I am very happy to see the flowers of our residential area growing sturdily." "Managerin, why did you come here?" Teacher Shen asked, hurriedly standing up straight. Sisterin, you're here." Upon seeing Zhuan, both children looked very happy. Yang Yutao was the first to tug at the corner of Zhuan's clothes, pleading, "Sister, I don't want to study. We're on summer break." Lin Zijin didn't show any reaction, as if waiting for Zhuan's response. Zhuan crouched halfway down, meeting Yang Yutao's gaze, and said earnestly, "Yutao, things are not like they used to be. Whether it's your mother or sisterin, everyone is working hard. Only by working hard can we survive. Everyone is working hard in their own way, so Yutao, you must also study hard and master basic knowledge. This is what you can do right now, okay?" Zhuan patted Yang Yutao's head. "Actually, I don't really want to say these things, but one day you will understand Sister N's good intentions." Zhuan's eyes met Yang Yutao's. The child's eyes had not yet been tainted by the mundane world, they appeared innocent, lively, and unblemished. "Okay, I understand," Yang Yutao said in a low voice, "I will study hard." Zhuan stood up and said to teacher Shen, "How is it going? Is the teaching going smoothly? Are there any difficulties?" Teacher Shen shook his head and laughed. "If I couldn't even teach elementary school students, I might as well just give up." Zhuan nodded. "That's great then. I'll be heading out now." At this moment, Qin Yuan suddenly appeared before everyone. Judging by his expression, he was clearly looking for Zhuan specifically. "Zhuan, so you were here. Oh, is something the matter?" Qin Yuan nodded slightly. "Yes. Do you remember the radio from before? I just received a message from it. There is a shelter claiming to be at a certain bank, which has already taken in over 40 people and is willing to accept other survivors. I felt this information was quite important, so I came specifically to tell you." Zhuan furrowed her brows, feeling that something was wrong, and opened the offline map on her phone. Strange. A bank isn't a place that would originally store a large amount of supplies. Zhuan swiped with 2 fingers, and the map instantly zoomed in. There are no nearby supermarkets or shopping malls around the bank. Logically speaking, they should barely be able to take care of themselves, so how do they have the confidence to support so many people? After all, not everyone is Zhuan, who can ignore zombie hordes and take supplies at will. Either they have special awakened ones, or there is something strange going on. In any case, it must be checked out. Alright, I'll go take a look. If possible, I will also bring back the survivors from there. Qin Yuan nodded. Since Zhuan had said so, he felt reassured. After saying this, Zhuan picked up her tang sword and headed out alone. Managerin really comes and goes like the wind. Teacher Shen exclaimed from behind. Zhuan killed zombies while on her way. Evolved zombies, which other survivors would have to pay a high price and even lose many lives to kill, sometimes didn't even see Zhuan before the crystals in their heads flew straight out. Zhuan directly put these crystals into her pocket nearby, and her pocket looked a bit bulging. Soon, Zhuan arrived near the bank. Through her clairvoyance, she discovered 2 survivors on duty on the second floor of the bank, but they didn't have firearms in their hands, only ordinary clubs. They don't even have firearms, it's even stranger. Zhuan was about to walk straight up, but suddenly stepped back. She wasn't going there to do anything drastic this time, but to disguise herself as an ordinary survivor to check the situation. If there was a problem, she would just take action to solve it. But with her eyes covered and her tang sword floating, how could she look like an ordinary survivor? Zhuan took off her white cloth, revealing her black eyes, and sheathed her tang sword. Although she still looked strangely clean and spirited, unlike an ordinary person, it was a world of difference compared to just a moment ago. Zhuan stepped onto the street and entered the line of sight of the guards on duty. "Stop. What are you doing here?" The guards on duty immediately spotted Zhuan and warned her loudly. Zhuan replied loudly, "I received your radio message, which is why I came here. It just so happens that my home isn't far from here, and I didn't encounter any zombies on the way. Even if I had, I killed them all." The guards looked at Zhuan's attire and couldn't help but mutter to themselves, "This outfit, this face, they're too clean. How can she not be dirty at all after walking here?" "Alright, wait a moment, I'll be down right away." Zhuan waited in place, and before long, the 2 guards came downstairs. "She looks pretty good." This was the first thought the 2 men had when they saw Zhuan up close. The 2 exchanged glances. Their shelter's leader, Wang Xing, had said that if they saw a good-looking female survivor coming to join, they had to let Wang Xing see her first. If Wang Xing was happy and rewarded them with some food, wouldn't that be a huge score? As for the risk? What kind of trouble could a woman possibly cause in their leader's hands? The guard scanned Zhuan's body again and noticed the tang sword. "Give me the sword. Our swords and weapons are under unified management." Zhuan didn't change her expression and handed over the tang sword. To avoid being discovered due to its strange weight, Zhuan secretly used her telekinesis to lift it. It was fine, anyway, with just a thought, the sword could fly back to her. "Alright, follow me. I'll take you to see our leader," one of the guards said. "Okay." At this moment, Zhuan was like a docile little rabbit, doing whatever she was told. The guard opened the large door, revealing the true living environment inside. The people here seemed to be divided into 2 types. One type looked rather savage and sturdy, while the other group consisted mostly of the elderly, weak, sick, disabled, and pregnant, and their spirit state was also very poor. Zhuan saw a heavily pregnant woman who, upon seeing her walk in, revealed an anxious expression on her face. Her lips moved, and she silently shouted to her. "Run! Run!" Zhuan read her lip movements but still pretended not to notice. "Sure enough, there is a problem here." "Then let me see." Chapter 50, "Brother, open your mouth, there's something urgent." Clack. As the door opened, a figure sitting in the very center of the room came into Zhuan's view. He didn't look particularly burly, but one could see a strange, repulsive air of ferocity on his face. Wang Xing seemed to have just been punishing someone physically. A person was kneeling beside him, looking like they had been beaten within an inch of their life, only remaining upright because 2 lackeys behind them were holding them up. "Brother Wang, I really know I was wrong," Chen Shiyu murmured, his consciousness fading. Wang Xing looked at the duty personnel who had disturbed him without reason. A one-point nameless fire rose in his heart, and just as he was about to lash out, he suddenly saw Zhuan's cold temperament and beautiful face immediately caught his eye. "Isn't this much better than those dirty, seductive sluts in the shelter? Those women would do anything for 1 point of food, willing to sleep with anyone." Even Wang Xing found them disgusting. "Good, good, you did well. Go get your supplies at noon and say I authorized you to take 2 extra portions," Wang Xing promised happily. The 2 said joyfully, "Thank you, Brother Wang." Brother Wang waved his hand, dismissing the two, and they closed the door on their way out. Then Wang Xing stood up, walked over to Zhuan, and asked lecherously, "Little girl, where did you come from?" Zhuan stepped back, her expression unchanged. "That has nothing to do with you. Please behave yourself." "But that person over there, why did you hurt him so badly?" Wang Xing glanced at Qin Shiyu, his tone slightly disdainful. "He didn't do his work well, so he deserved it. It's only because I'm in a good mood today, otherwise, he wouldn't need to eat ever again." Zhuan frowned again. What kind of work did he do? Seeing Zhuan asking again, Wang Xing felt a one-point displeasure, but since Zhuan was pretty, he was still patient. "I had him go kill that kind of evolved zombie and bring me the crystal, but he brought back a defective one that someone else had already eaten, and then he colluded with others to fool me. Using human lives to pile up and kill an evolved zombie?" Zhuan was stunned. What a wasteful and extravagant act. An evolved zombie, even the most basic strength-type zombie, has power far beyond what an ordinary person can match. One hit from it would punch a hole through an ordinary person, killing them on the spot. Not to mention the speed type that mows down everything in tight spaces, or the defense type with extremely high defense. It takes at least 5 or 6 people to pile up and kill one evolved zombie. The purpose of sacrificing 5 or 6 precious people is just to get one white crystal? What a waste and desecration of life this is. It's no wonder this shelter keeps absorbing new survivors. They die quickly anyway, so there's no need to worry about food supplies. Zhuan couldn't help but laugh out loud, which stunned Wang Xing. "What are you laughing at?" Zhuan calmed down and, right in front of Wang Xing, pulled out the half bag of crystals she had picked up on the way. "A single crystal is so valuable. With this many crystals, how many lives can I buy?" Seeing the shiny white crystal in Zhuan's hand, Wang Xing's greed instantly surged. He had only eaten 5 white crystals so far, and he already felt his physical speed and strength far exceeded what they were when he had just awakened. If he could eat all these crystals, he couldn't imagine how strong he would become. "How do you have so many crystals? Where did they come from? Why don't you eat them?" Wang Xing shouted, putting on a brave front, while his 2 lackeys also grabbed things and surrounded her. "Eat?" Zhuan raised an eyebrow slightly. "So this stuff is indeed meant for eating, but since it's useless to me, I haven't eaten a single one." Wang Xing couldn't help but lick his lips. He hadn't expected this inexplicable young woman in front of him to be an awakened one just like him. However, he could eat the crystals to become stronger, but she couldn't, which meant he was definitely much stronger than her now. "Isn't this just an experience pack and a plaything delivered to my doorstep? It's all going to be mine, whether it's your crystals or your body. Get her. There will be plenty of rewards for you later." Wang Xing barked at his 2 lackeys. Facing what looked like an absolute disadvantage, a wild smile appeared on the corner of Wang Xing's mouth. Then, he saw Zhuan calmly close her eyes under the baton attacks of his 2 lackeys. Wang Xing instinctively felt something was wrong. What was going on? He had never seen anyone fight like this. But the next scene shocked him even more. He saw that his 2 lackeys' weapons seemed to have frozen. Unable to get even an inch closer to Zhuan, Wang Xing saw his 2 lackeys' faces turn bright red. They had used all their strength, but still couldn't attack Zhuan. What kind of sorcery is this? Negotiation failed, Zhuan said lightly. "No choice, I'll have to be 1 point rougher." The next moment, Zhuan threw 2 punches. The 2 lackeys flew out like a beam of light and slammed into the wall. The wall cracked directly from the impact, and various viscera and mucus were plastered onto the wall. The 2 people were beaten into smithereens. Wang Xing was so scared that he staggered and fell backward onto the ground, looking quite pathetic. Zhuan waved her left hand gently, and the Tang Dao that had been put away by the duty personnel in the distant warehouse suddenly moved without wind, then flew rapidly toward Zhuan. The duty personnel noticed this anomaly and muttered, "This blade? Isn't it the one from just now?" Rip. The Tang Dao simply and brutally pierced directly through the door without 1 point of damage. For the Tang Dao, which had already cut through many zombie crystals and been nourished by them, this was no different from passing through tofu. Wangxing looked at Zhuan, who appeared like a god or Buddha before him, cold sweat streaming down his face. He knew he had encountered someone he couldn't afford to offend today. Wangxing immediately performed a Dejiza, his head hitting the ground hard. "Grandma, this lowly one was blind and failed to recognize Mount Tai. I know I was wrong. Please spare me. I don't want the people or things here anymore. I just beg you to spare my dog life." Zhuan didn't speak first, just silently tied up her white cloth. After a long while, she said slowly, "I'll ask you a few things first." Wangxing immediately nodded frantically like a nodding machine. "What is the function of the crystal?" "The function of the crystal is for people like us to eat. It can enhance our abilities." "Are there any side effects?" "None for the time being." "Oh, so what ability did you awaken?" "Both speed and strength have been enhanced." Zhuan rubbed her chin. "It seems he is a mixed awakened one like Tang Yun." Next, Zhuan asked another critical question. "What happens if an ordinary person eats a crystal?" Wangxing swallowed his saliva and lowered his head. "Ordinary people cannot eat crystals. If they eat a crystal, they will turn into a zombie." As he spoke, Wangxing pointed to Qin Shiyu nearby. "Yesterday, someone stole and ate a crystal and turned into a zombie, and then I tasted that the crystal didn't taste right, which is why I punished him." "Alright then, it seems awakened ones are indeed not going to be everywhere," Zhuan thought, picking up a crystal and taking 2 steps forward. "Brother, open your mouth, there's something urgent." Wangxing looked up in astonishment and let out an "ah." But the next second, Zhuan forcibly stuffed a crystal into his throat. Cough, cough, cough. Wangxing choked for a long time before finally swallowing the crystal. What is this for? Although the crystal brought him a comfortable sense of ability enhancement, his heart was still filled with terror at this moment. After a few minutes, seeing that Wangxing was still fine, Zhuan knew that what he said was true. "Grandma, can you let me go?" Zhuan squatted down, her eyes level with Wangxing's, her gaze as calm as water. This familiar scene seemed to have happened not long ago. What a terrible adult. "The two in my family are much, much better behaved than you. I never promised to let you go. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Sally Fox Audiobook."